Chapter 393, Buddhahood Abandonment Death Wish Core Formation. Up until now, the camp had 2 Jindan in total, Wei Sheng and Xie Shan. Zhong Ru undergoing core formation was unexpected by everyone. Wei Sheng's core formation was caused by the condensation of his sword heart after killing something, and Xie Shan's core formation was an innate change due to power. Zhong Ru's talent could only be called normal. While his cultivation was not bad, but he had not accumulated power on the level that Xie Shan had. Zhong Ru, who was not the most outstanding in any area, was the third to undergo core formation. Shocked, everyone naturally spread out and raised their guard to defend against the fiendish mist that would come and disturb Zhong Ru. After seeing 2 core formations, everyone was familiar with the apparitions during core formation. In the sky above Zhong Ru's tent was an enormous shadow that was like a faint ball of mist. The mist flowed and twisted as though something was struggling inside. When everyone raised their heads to look at the enormous shadow in the air, they all expressed shock. As the mist appeared, a faint presence covered everyone's minds like a little mountain. The only ones that could keep their composure were Wei Sheng and Xie Shan. But even these two had nervous expressions. If core formation failed, the lightest consequence was injury and the degradation of cultivation. The most serious was loss of life. A sound that was like a dragon and elephant thundered through the depths of the shadows like waves. Irregular ripples formed in the air like ripples in water. Everyone guarding the surroundings felt their ears ring as though something had exploded by their ears. Those with deep cultivation wavered, and those that were of lower cultivation paled and took multiple steps back. Only at this time did a hard wave of wind reach everyone. Wish power. A Buddhahood abandonment death wish. How long has it been since I've seen such pure and extreme wish power? In Wei's deep pupils, there seemed to be something flashing. Pu Yao looked at the continuously changing mist in the sky, as a hint of trepidation flashed through his mind. Wish power. A taste that he had almost forgotten. But when it appeared again, that familiar trepidation once again appeared. In that great war 3,000 years ago, he had fought against many Dhyana Shio. Of course, there were Dhyana Shio that possessed wish power. Dhyana Shio that possessed wish power were enemies that all Yao did not want to encounter. It didn't matter if it was Yao arts or Mo skills, there were many malicious and evil techniques he could think of, but if Pu Yao had to pick out the 10 most malicious powers, wish power was definitely among them. Wish power did not have any connection with the cultivation level of the Dhyana Shio. It was a power that could permeate all kinds of Ling power. It was only connected with the wish inside the heart of the wisher. The more determined the wisher's belief was, the stronger the wish power was. In the legends, if the Dhyana Shio who made a wish could complete the oath they gave, they could become a Buddha. The strongest belief of every Dhyana Shio was to become a Buddha. A death wish was a wish that could not be completed. Buddhahood abandonment death wish was when the Dhyana Shio made the cruelest and harshest oath, and because of this, of all the kinds of wish power, Buddhahood abandonment death wish was the most extreme wish power. No one wanted to be enemies that had made a Buddhahood abandonment death wish. If one touched this terrifying wish power, it would directly damage their soul, and this damage was almost irreparable. It was a synonym for death. Luckily, not every Dhyana Shio could make wishes. Otherwise, the great battle in the past would not have lasted for long. In reality, it was rare to find Dhyana Shio that could receive wish power, and of those the Dhyana Shio that could make a Buddhahood abandonment death wish, even Pu Yao hadn't seen more than 5. But they actually encountered one here. Pu Yao and Wei were frightened. Of the entire campsite, in terms of who was most shocked, it would undoubtedly be Yi Zheng. Coming from the great Buddha temple, Yi Zheng was from an orthodox and famed sect. But at this time, he was gaping as he looked at the sky, his entire mind a mess. Dropped into this ghastly place, what he had seen in these short months had completely upset everything he had learned on the mountain. When he had seen Wei Xing the first time, he was awed by the other's talent and felt that he, in comparison, had achieved nothing. However, he never would have thought that it was just the beginning. Everything that followed was so fantastical it was like a dream. A guy who was of similar age to him was the leader of thousands of people, and everyone was strangely loyal. In a place called Golden Crow Camp, Everyone had a 4th-grade golden crow fire seed. He had almost gone insane then. Could that fire seed be made wholesale? In a place called Vermilion Bird Camp, everyone there were battle maniacs. Even their gaze when they walked by were like blades. Yi Zheng was a greenhorn. He did not know how strong these people were, but the presence exuded by these people made his heart beat wildly. A place called Guard Camp had its doors locked all day. However, there would occasionally be the sounds of howling like wild beasts and battle coming from inside. Every time he passed by, he would uncontrollably shake. There was one that rested all day hugging the sword, one that held a black spear and killed all day without any weariness, little people that could fly, and mischievous pagoda. All kinds of weird, strange, and impossible things were found here. We are from Great Buddha Temple, we are Diana Xiao, we won't compete with you on strangeness, Yi Zheng repeatedly comforted himself in multiple nights. But today, he saw with his own eyes a Diana Xiao's core formation, saw a Diana Xiao give a wish, saw a Diana Xiao give a Buddhahood abandonment death wish, and consequently, he completely broke down. Who is the Diana Xiao here? Great Buddha Temple, one of the 10 Diana Xiao holy grounds. He knew of 3 that had wish power, the Shirshu from the Discipline Hall, the Ancestral Forefather, and 7th Shirgu. Buddhahood abandonment death wish. Oh, the stuff of legends, it's good to hear about it. But why did it have to appear in front of him? Yi Zheng suddenly felt that the glittering sigh of the Great Buddha Temple was still dazzling in front of this unorthodox Diana Xiao, but for some unknown reason, its presence had lessened greatly. All hail the Buddha! Yi Zheng grabbed his head with his hands and looked dazedly at the dark shadow gradually forming in the sky. A blurry shadow gradually formed above the camp. The enormous slave-transporting boats in the face of this figure's foot was like a toe. The shadow was like an ancient giant looking down at the world. Everyone in the camp without exception inhaled sharply. An endless presence came at them like a tsunami. Wei Xing showed a grave expression. He stepped forward and gestured in a circle and swiped with his fingers. Everyone felt the presence oppressing their bodies instantly lessen and their terror-filled expressions eased slightly. Wei Xing and Xie Shan exchanged a look. Both had grave expressions. The two of them had detected the unusualness of Zhong Ru's core formation. The blurry giant suddenly raised its head and bellowed. The sound traveled far in all directions. Waves of motion came from the depths of the fiendish mist. The giant's blurry figure continued to change. Zhua Emo, who was going through the dance of falling maples prison battlefield, did not know of the enormous noise at the campground. This time, he did not activate the prison breaking battle and he sighed in relief. If he activated the prison breaking battle again, then he would want to smash his head of a wall. He thought of how much endless trouble-breaking vast water-clear skies had been. With money in his hand, Zuorimo did not want trouble. These things might also be money, but they were not as likable as Jingshi. In any case, Ji couldn't waste it. The prison battlefield of the Dance of Falling Maple was primarily based on killing illusions. Zuorimo felt good after using bone-crushing obscuring wind. Powerful Yao arts only worked if they were used frequently. Zuorimo clearly detected that he could use bone-crushing obscuring wind now. Zuorimo quickly was not satisfied with purely using bone-crushing obscuring wind. He started to try to change Yao arts. Suddenly thinking of the feeling he caught at the last moment in the battle against Mo Ruhua, Zuomo's eyes suddenly lit up. The door created by blue and green vines twined together released a serene light. This was a Yao door. The Xiozhe had their transportation formations, the Yao had their Yao doors, the Mo had their blood pools. They were going home. Looking at the Yao door, Mu Shi's thoughts flowed. She couldn't say how she felt after being able to safely return home after fighting for several years. Before this campaign, she had never left home for so long. Thinking about how her mother had cried until she was made of tears when she had been preparing, her heart felt sore. Returning in victory, this was the only part she felt was worth it. From a young age, her talent was not very eye-catching among the youths of the clan. It was only when she began to study being a battle general that her talent was seen. It had been unexpected that the chance to represent the Wood clan had landed on her head. The clan leader's order had created many doubting voices. It had to be known that of all military commanders, she was the youngest. Fortunately, she had not failed. Even though there were no great achievements, there were not any failures. "Let's go," she said serenely. Just at this time, a Yao that was wearing the military uniform hurried past. Mu Shi recognized this Yao. The other was an intermediate-level battle general at the front line of the Bloody Sky metropolis Jia. Mu Shi had once met him. The other's expression was panicked and had slight terror. Mu Shi's heart suddenly jumped. "Mang Zong Darren," she called the other. Mang Zhang's steps paused. He finally saw Mu Shi like he had woken up from a dream. "It's Mu Shi Darren." To any battle general, the skill to remain calm was the most fundamental of all fundamentals. Seeing the others so uncomposed, the bad feeling inside grew. She asked in a light voice, "Has something happened?" Zhang Mang's expression changed. His eyes suddenly became slightly red, his voice hoarse. The front lines were defeated. Mu Shi and her vice commander's expression changed dramatically. 3 days ago, small numbers of Xiuzhe appeared on the outskirts of the defensive line. We sent out little teams to clean out the area. We quickly received news that the teams were surrounded and were asking for aid. Yan Shangdaran led the troops to give aid. But the other took the chance to attack the defense line. The attack was strong. Yan Shangdaran was ambushed on the way back to give aid. The fierce fire corps were completely killed. Yan Daran has also given his life in sacrifice. The troops that went to give aid to Yan Shangdaran were also ambushed and lost great numbers. Mang Zhan's voice was sorrowful. Mu Shi's face suddenly became as white as paper. Chapter 394, Speculation. When the news of the defeat at the front line reached the rear, all were shocked. This was the first defeat the Yao had suffered after the war began. The losses were so severe they surpassed imagination. In the previous battles, the Yao military forces had advanced smoothly. The Xiuzhe hadn't just retreated out of Bloody Sky metropolis Jia, they had also lost multiple Jia. But looking at it with a calm eye now, the Xiuzhe had not been truly wounded at all. What they had lost were just the lowest level of sects, and the true elite had not suffered losses at all. In this defeat, the Yao casualties were all combat Yao above the stage of spirit planting. Normal Yao and combat Yao were spirit planting stage, but there was an enormous difference in ability. This was not as evident when it was a small skirmish, but the difference would certainly show in mass combat. Even if it was the local militia, they needed to training for at least 5 years to form preliminary combat abilities. Even more, Fierce Fire Corps was a regular corps commanded directly by the Council of Elders. None one had expected the Xiuzhe's counterattack was so ferocious and decisive. When they attacked, it was like thunder. When the situation at the front lines were good, the mood at the rear was very relaxed, but with the news of the defeat the mood of the rear instantly became tense. The Fierce Fire Corps of Yan Shangdaran were famed for their ferocity. They were completely defeated. Then how strong was the power of the enemy? The Yao finally remembered that the Xiuzhe had possessed Bloody Sky metropolis Jia for 3,000 years. 3,000 years, even if Bloody Sky metropolis Jia was not suited for Xiuzhe to fight, they would still be as familiar with that place like it was their backyard. The light on his hand flashed continuously. Zhuemo was very careful. Pia, the light disappeared. Zhuemo shook his head. It still didn't work. He tried to recall the feeling he captured with the tactile knowledge grip that day, and seemed to comprehend something, but he could not describe it. He knew this was due to not having a deep enough understanding. That barely discernible understanding needed more accumulation. It seemed that he needed to go find Little Red soon. The pitiful Mo Ru Hua was a pretty famous character, but due to his completely red body, Zhuemo intimately called him Little Red. If he heard this nickname, he would probably go insane immediately. He had been planning to use the prison battlefield to practice his Yao arts. Now that he did not have any ideas, Zhuemo did not decide to procrastinate any further. As long as he did not activate the prison breaking battle, passing through was still pretty easy for him. He quickly received the qualification to enter the third prison. He thought he had spent enough time in the 10-finger prison today. His consciousness swept across the spiritual imprint. He found that Song Zhe and Nan Yu were both present and headed to the wasteland beast chessboard. When Zhou Mo found Song Zhe and Nan Yu, he found the two were dejected and had worried expressions. "What is it?" Zhou Mo asked in puzzlement. "Has something happened?" Song Zhe narrated the news of the loss at the front lines in a low voice. At the side, Nan Yu showed worry. They lived in the Yao world. If the Yao army were defeated, their lives would become even worse. They had just seen hope. If the Yao world became destabilized, would anyone remain unaffected? After Song Zhe finished, Zhou Mo was stunned where he stood, with only shock left inside. After a long time, he came back. His first response was, how was it possible? He had personally seen the great strength of the Yao army. Sky Moon Jia, Little Mountain Jia, when hadn't the Xiuzhe retreated continually? Those large sects retreated when they heard of the advance of the Yao army and ran back to Bright Wave Jia like homeless dogs. After that, Zhou Mo had lost complete confidence in Kunlun. Even the present Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp in Zhou Mo's eyes could not compare to the elite forces of the Yao army. Now he was hearing Song Zhe say that the Yao army had been defeated by the Xiuzhe. The Yao military that was so powerful was actually defeated? And defeated right in front of their own doorstep? When he heard that the total death count reached 12,000, Zhou Mo didn't know what to say. So the Xiuzhe had powerful people too. He still didn't believe it, but he knew that Song Zhe and Nan Yu definitely would not try to con him. Such a dazzling victory completely upended Zhou Mo's impression of the fragility of those great sections. He suddenly realized the depths of those great sects were not as he had thought. But he couldn't help but have a strange feeling. The past week display of the Xiuzhe was a stark contrast against this great victory. The two were so different they were like mud and clouds. Was it? Zhou Mo's eyes suddenly widened. His body froze and a wave of coldness rose from his spine. Pretend to be weak? The four words tore his mind like lightning. His expression changed. With multiple jia of territory, countless sects as the bait, it was insane. His mind blanked as he mindlessly murmured. If it really was so, then the one who planned this was a madman. An undoubted madman. Zhou Mo soullessly returned to the camp. The gray mist in the sky continuously retreated back towards the center. The figure of the giant continuously shrunk and became clearer. When it completely appeared, simultaneous inhales sounded in the camp again. An extremely weird giant floated in the sky. 20 zhang high like a little mountain. It had 3 heads that faced 3 directions, each with a different expression. There was one glaring angrily, one smiling slightly, and one with eyes closed in deep thought. The 6 arms were either making seals, or the pair of hands were together. Endless dignity was like an invisible wave that struck everyone's minds. Staring at the colossal being in the sky, Yi Zheng's face was as pale as paper, his pupils scattered as he unconsciously murmured, "Dragon and elephant attainment." When Zhou Mo returned to the camp, Zhong Ru's core formation was in its ending stages. He looked towards where Zhong Ru was. He was first shocked and then he showed joy. However, this thread of joy was quickly shrouded by thick darkness. His face became extremely dark and he called everyone to his tent. The mood inside the camp was extremely low. Everyone had terrible expressions. The news that Zhou Mo had brought from the 10-finger prison was a shock and everyone was silent. "We are bait." Gong Sun Cha narrowed his eyes as his finger gently swiped across his face. His bashful and shy face was completely frosty at this time. If this really is their plan, then they definitely have successive plans, Gong Sun Cha continued to speak. His voice was cold like the collision of ice cups. His autumn-like pupils were filled with murderousness. A person who is able to make such a scheme definitely would not just aim for this kind of small victory. Damn it! Xie Shan bellowed, his eyes sprouting fire and his features twisted. The other Xiuzhe who came out of Little Mountain Jia had completely red eyes. Not even 1 out 10 Xiuzhe had managed to survive Little Mountain Jia. No one experienced more than they did. Every one of them had crawling out of piles of corpses. No one doubted Gong Sun Cha's speculation. Sword essence flowed in Wei Sheng's black eyes and his expression was black. He had felt things were strange when he had accompanied Lin Qian and his group to the Sword Cave. Every one of Lin Qian's bodyguards had exceptional power. With that kind of strength, why did they not defend Sky Moon Jie? It seemed more like they had given Sky Moon Jie to the Yao army. With the comparison now, he understood. A strong fury and dislike instantly filled his chest. The sword essence in his body felt it and roiled as it wanted to burst out of his body. Kunlun governed the entire Kunlun territory. Every sect needed to pay taxes to Kunlun. A portion of their income had to flow towards Kunlun, turn to Jingshi, turn to materials for Kunlun disciples to cultivate, for Kunlun to use for daily expenditures. But killing essence flowed through the tent and the mood was extremely low. Zhuaremo, who had been silent all this time, suddenly raised his face. As though nothing had happened, he gave a bright smile. Everyone, cultivate. If they really did this, there naturally will be chances to slowly settle our debts with them. Faster, faster. Accelerate. We must reach the defensive line within 48 hours. Every Yao soldier had tired expressions. They had received orders. In order to rush to Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie as fast as possible, they had almost used all their power. General, we will reach Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie soon. As the corps commander of Ice Frost Crops, Lan was in his prime. 20 years ago, he had become a golden battle general. The 20 years of experience of commanding a troop had caused him to show hints of making a breakthrough. As one of the most influential people of the Water Clan, everyone speculated that he would have a good future. Lan had a cautious personality. His battle style was steady and he rarely made mistakes. The reason that the Elder Council sent him was in hopes that he could quickly stabilize the theater of war and prevent the collapse of the defensive line. Looking at the bloody mist that was endless in front of him, Lan was silent. The troops streamed past him and entered the bloody mist. His vice commander silently stood next to him and did not disturb him. Do you know the origins of the Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie? Lan asked. The vice commander respectfully said, 3,000 years ago, we were defeated. In order to halt the advance of the Xiuzhe, the 4 major Jie masters used their fleshly bodies in sacrifice, with 7 intermediate Jie as the axle, 49 little Jie as the screen, to create what is called Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. Lan said emotionally, yes, born of our elders' blood and flesh. I hope they can protect us to safely return. The vice commander said in shock, does Darren have such a low outlook on our mission this time? The other definitely has more plans. Lan shook his head. The complete defeat of the Fierce Fire Corps is not an accident. The destruction of a corps is at least an intermediate-scale battle. If they did not put in enough power, they other could not have completely killed the Fierce Fire Corps. The vice commander couldn't help but have a worried expression. He had followed his commander for many years. Darren would never speculate. Noticing the vice commander's expression, Lan said with a smile, don't be nervous. We will use earth to deal with water, generals to deal with soldiers. We just have to be more careful. This subordinate thinks too much, the vice commander hurriedly replied. Being more cautious is good. Lan was silent for a moment before he suddenly raised his head. A light flashed through his pupils. Order. Collectively accelerate. We need to reach the defensive line in 24 hours. The vice commander apprehensively responded, yes. Chapter 395, Gold Battle General Zhong Ru opened his eyes. The chaotic air turbulence around him instantly stopped and a glowing light flashed and disappeared in his eyes. The skin on his face became extremely smooth, the weathering due to hard days in his past had disappeared. His appearance was not handsome and not exceptional in the campsite, but the Diana serene aura on his body was unique to him. It had to be said that the people of the camp were very unique. Wei Sheng's determination, Gong Sun Cha's insanity and viciousness hidden under bashfulness, Shu Long's steadiness, Ma Fan's laziness, etc. On Zhong Ru's clean forehead was a blood-red lotus. 2 auras, one holy and one demonic, were merged together and filled with a soul-shaking power. He stood and slowly walked out of the tent. Old Ru. Seeing Zhong Ru, Lei Peng and Yen Lu first stopped and then were overjoyed. The 3 of them had once been in a team and had a good relationship. While Zhong Ru had undergone his core formation, the two of them had stood guard outside the tent. Lay man. Little Nian Nian. A sincere smile came onto Zhong Ru's face. Nian Lu's smile froze on his face, and the tendons in his forehead pulsed. Lei Peng laughed instead, and rushed in front of Zhong Ru, opening his eyes and giving a hard hug. Old Ru, you did it! Secretly having your core formation. Isn't this forcing the rest of us to work hard? Lei Peng's voice was like thunder and exploded next to Zhong Ru's ear. Zhong Ru had a slight smile as he patted Lei Peng's back. Nian Lu's gaze swept across Zhong Ru and landed on Zhong Ru's face. His eyes suddenly lit up. So core formation can make one more handsome. Excellent. No, I have to enter Jindan soon. I'm so handsome now. If I'm a Jindan, how handsome would I be? It is such a hard question. Hearing Nian Lu's narcissistic and nonsensical words, Zhong Ru's heart felt unspeakably warm. The news that Zhong Ru had come out made the entire camp erupt. The mood of the camp had been extremely heavy these past days. Zhong Ru's reappearance caused everyone to be filled with joy. Zhong Ru was humble and low-key usually. In this time, the people that came to congratulate him was endless. Compared to everyone's worry when Xie Shan had his core formation, everyone was extremely calm this time. When Zhong Ru saw Zuemo and the others, he hurriedly walked forward. He made a deep bow and said respectfully, "Darren." A smile came onto Zuemo's face and he unhesitatingly went forward to give Zhong Ru a hard hug. Just as Zhong Ru was very moved, Darren muttered in a small voice next to his ear, "You have to work hard on the healing techniques of Attainment Golden Body. There is so many people in the camp. Think how much Jingshur we can save when the time comes. Darren, we cannot sustain this." The vice commander's expression was fragile and his voice bitter and burdened. Lan's face was unaffected. "How many have we lost?" "Another 200 were just killed, 300 wounded." The vice commander had a terrible expression when he reported the numbers. In the short 8 hours since they stepped into the bloody sky metropolis Jie, they had encountered 6 waves of attack. Up until now, fatalities reached more than 1,000 people, more than 1/10 of the entire corps. The others' attacks were extremely fierce and unpredictable. They seemed to be able to move without restriction in bloody sky metropolis Jie. No one knew how they were able to do this. The blood sky metropolis Jie was the battlefield suited for Yaoma, yet they were suppressed in this place. But the Xiuzhe who attacked them seemed to be unaffected at all and were at great ease. How was the other able to do this? Lan gazed into the distance and asked, "How long until we can reach the defensive line?" "The others' attacks have slowed our advancement." Lan interrupted the vice commander and asked sternly, "How long?" The vice commander's heart shook. He gritted his teeth and said, "At this speed, we will only reach the line after 96 hours. Lan was silent for a moment before he said in a deep voice, "Gather the other Darren." "Yes." The vice commander heeded the order. Moments later, the 9 officers hurried over. Their expressions were all bad. In 8 short hours, 1/10 of their forces had been killed. This kind of attrition rate made their hearts beat rapidly. Based on this speed, their numbers would be expended before they reached the defensive line. Lan's gaze swept across the 9 officers. Their faces were terrible but not panicked. He had personally promoted all 9 commanders who had outstanding skills. Military positions had very strict requirements. For a regular corps like the Ice Frost Corps, the corps commander must be a gold battle general, and the officers had to be silver battle generals. "I need one that is willing to go to his death." Lan did not waste words and directly said it. The 9 officers all changed expressions. From Darren's words, they could surmise the state of the situation. Darren's gaze made them feel there was a blade at their back. But they hesitated. At this time, a youth stood out. "Darren, this subordinate is willing." Lan's expressionless face imperceptibly twitched. He looked closely at the youth and his heart couldn't help but hurt. This youth that had become a silver battle general at the age of 20 had a limitless potential and one of his favored commanders. Liang Wei belonged to one of the side branches of the Water Clan. His results in the Yao Art House had been average until he had turned to study as a battle general, where his results shot up. When he was 20, he had successfully passed the exam of a silver battle general. Even though he was not eye-catching compared to the little monsters of the Yao world, Lan still felt that his future was limitless. Liang Wei stood upright, full of bravery. Lan could not refuse at this time. He nodded. I will give you 3,000 combat Yao. Take up the rear, sweep the flanks of the troop, and stop the attacks. The other officers had complex expressions. From the harassment they had endured in the last 8 hours, they could predict just how great the pressure Liang Wei would face. Liang Wei calmly accepted and made a bow towards Lan. If I die in combat, Darren, please give some care to my clansmen. I will. Lan gravely replied. He turned to the other officers and said in a deep voice, proceed at full speed. Military law for those that slow down. Yes. The officers all shook. Wei gazed at the development of the battle situation. He felt great shock at the combat capabilities that Gong Sun-cha showed. The battle had been at a standstill for 2 whole days. Wei saw a rare seriousness on Pu Yao's face. After interacting for several thousand years, no one could rival his understanding of Pu Yao. When his previous owner had been the corps commander, all of the strategic decisions had come from Pu Yao. Pu Yao was forced to such a state by such a young guy. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he definitely would not believe it. From the start of this war chess match, he had watched as the two fought without a moment of inattention. He had sighed in amazement many times throughout. The eye-dazzling fighting had caused him to exclaim. The time rate of war chess was much faster than regular time. The span of 2 days was equivalent to a whole month inside the match. He did not understand battle generals. At every dangerous moment, his heart couldn't help but jump. He had thought hundreds of times inside, how could they be so devious? Even though the advantage of the match was in Pu Yao's hands, but Wei put more of his attention of Gong Sun-cha. Such a young person that was able to resist Pu Yao for so long, his skill definitely was not low. Gradually, the balance began to tilt and the Pu Yao's advantage had grown. Pu Yao's sweeping attacks in the final stages of battle were, in Wei's view, this guy venting for having lost face. As expected, when Pu Yao came out of the war chess, his expression was not good. A very powerful young person. Wei's words were slightly pouring salt onto the wound. Pu Yao's expression became even uglier, but he seemed to think of something and his expression instantly recovered. He said proudly, "Don't give young people too much praise. This is not good for his improvement." Wei stilled. He reacted very quickly. "He is my student." Pu Yao showed a smug and sly smile. "How about it? Give a review." Wei really was stunned this time. "He is also your student? What about Zuemo?" Chapter 396 News. The high temperatures produced by the white-hot Samadhi truth fire twisted everything in his field of vision. Staring at the remnants of the defensive line burning, Liang Wei's vision darkened. He viciously bit down and stopped himself from collapsing. He forcibly steadied himself as he tasted blood, but tears uncontrollably left his eyes. Liang Wei and the soldiers beside him were covered in wounds, their blood-covered clothing was torn everywhere. He could not remember how many attackers he had killed on the way here, but he had been resilient and managed to block them from attacking the larger troop. In the end, to prevent the enemy attacks from their rear, he had resolutely led the troops as the rear guard. They had traveled 12 hours behind the rest of the troop. Liang Wei's face was covered in tears and was like a wooden puppet. Looking at the flames that rose into the sky and rampaged, his body became increasingly cold. A long while later, the wails and cries of his compatriots became clear in his ears. He looked blankly at the grieving comrades around him. His scattered gaze gradually became bright. He bit down hard on his lips and wiped away the tears. He turned around, his hoarse voice full of resolve as he said, "Let's go." "Go? Go where?" The combat Yao under his command raised their grieving and empty eyes. "To get revenge," Liang Wei said without turning his head. Zuemo had been in the 10-finger prison in the past few days, not the 3rd prison, but the Wasteland Beast chessboard. The bounty for information had been posted, and what remained was to patiently wait. At the same time, he was waiting for the results of another matter. Gong Sun Shidi's speculation was stuck in his heart like a thorn. Everyone in the camp was waiting for the result. According to Gong Sun Shidi's speculation, it would be quickly proven. It may have been caused by this matter that Zhuo Emo was disinterested in everything, even lacking interest in studying Nuyao arts. Suddenly, Zhuo Emo noticed Song Zhe arrive with an ugly expression. Darren, the newest information, the front lines were defeated again. Ice Frost Corps were almost completely destroyed, less than 600 people remain. Song Zhe's voice was trembling. His heart was filled with terror. When Darren had told him to pay attention to news from the front line, he had found it puzzling. But when he heard this news, he was frightened. He suddenly found that Darren was standing in a daze. How does Darren find out news about the outside? Nian Lu pressed his voice low and asked. Darren is like a ghost and doesn't know. Lei Peng said in what was not a good tone. It's not like you don't know how much of a monster Darren is. Nian Lu nodded, repeated. Yes. However, I get angry just thinking about it. Those great sects are not good. We need to cultivate and get even. As a handsome person, I cannot swallow this breath. Lei Peng showed an understanding and devious smile. Don't worry. Darren has said that he will take us and settle the odds. Hee, I'm telling you in secret. Miss Darren privately said that it probably is people from Kunlun that did this. Kunlun. Nian Lu was shocked and then furious. It is actually Kunlun. Don't worry. There's no need to worry even if it is Kunlun. Lei Peng's expression was twisted as he smiled and said, Darren said, if you have something of ours, spit it out. If you dug a trap for us, we'll dig one for you. Little Nian, go cultivate. Even old Ru is a Jindan. It's not easy to live if we aren't Jindan in the future. Everyone wants to have a core formation. Is the core that easy to form? Nian Lu murmured. Shouldn't core formations be achieved according to the degree of handsomeness? Coming out of the 10-finger prison, Zhuo Emo walked out of the camp with a fire in his chest. The Xiozha in the camp crisscrossed around busily, but looking at this busy scene, Zhuo Mo's heart did not calm down but became even more irritated. He walked aimlessly out of the camp. Walking out of the campsite, and losing the barrier provided by the campsite formations, the fiendish mist rushed towards him. The thick fiendish energy inside the fiendish mist made his raging fire grow even greater. Nearby, there were Xiozha from Vermilion Bird Camp that were cultivating. The fiend Ling that they cultivated needed to use the power of the fiendish energy. Zhuo Emo did not disturb them and walked forward. At this moment, his heart was full of the impulse to destroy. Without thinking, he charged into the depths of the fiendish mist. The presence of danger increased, but he did not seem to detect it, and his steps did not slow. Several fiend soul beasts silently stalked him. In the black-red fiendish mist, several dark-red pairs of eerie eyes tightly locked onto Zhuo Emo. Without noticing, Zhuo Emo had walked at least 300 li from the camp. This distance far surpassed the camp's usual cultivation and living area. Even guard camp would not go outside 100 li of the camp. A fiend soul beast could not resist any longer. With a roar he charged at Zhuo Emo. The accumulated rage and savagery inside Zhuo Emo were ignited at this moment. Go die! His eyes suddenly became red. He did not dodge. Facing the charge of the fiend soul beast, he punched out. The fiend soul beast had not expected Zhuo Emo to be so courageous and did not have the time to dodge. Bam! The two figures were like two arrows that flew apart. The fiend soul beast's enormous body flew back with even faster speed, and Zhuo Emo was like a ball hit by a stick that smashed heavily into the ground. The other fiend soul beast saw the chance and unhesitatingly leapt over. Pia pia pia. With sounds like that of a whip, the fiend soul beasts that leapt over all flew backwards. Zhuo Mo's body floated up. A suit of dark golden armor stood proudly. The bright red eyes were filled with murderousness, his entire body exuding viciousness and savagery like a demon that walked out of hell. The fiend soul beasts showed wariness. They crouched down and continued to growl. Their dark red eyes stared at Zhuo Emo, but they did not dare to move forward. Zhuo Emo raised his murderous eyes, and his figure disappeared from his spot. The fiend's soul beasts were alarmed and scattered. Suddenly, an armored hand appeared on the forehead of a fiend's soul beast. This hand pressed it down. The fiend's soul beast felt an enormous power pass over. It was unable to move. Now it became panicked. It growled urgently, its four limbs furiously tearing at the ground to try to resist this terrifying hand. Zuomo's left hand did not move a sliver. He raised his right hand and formed a fist. "Go die!" Zuomo bellowed. Brutality increased in his completely red eyes. The right hand heavily smashed onto the head of the fiend's soul beast. Bam! The fiend's soul beast's body froze. "Go die!" Bam! "Go die!" Bam! The berserk Zuomo bellowed as his fist rained down on the head of the fiend's soul beast. Gradually, the body of this fiend's soul beast became blurry. Bam! Zuomo's fist penetrated the head of the fiend's soul beast and struck the ground. It instantly smashed a large hole in the ground. The body of the fiend's soul beast completely disappeared, leaving behind a black fang and a fiend's soul beast bead. The seemingly insane Zuomo made the other fiend's soul beasts feel a thread of terror. While this fiend's soul beast was smashed to nothingness by Zuomo, they did not dare to go forward. Zuomo did not look at his spoils of victory. He raised his head and slowly stood. His gaze swept towards the other fiend's soul beasts. The fiend's soul beasts that encountered his gaze all retreated without exception. "You should all die." The dark and icy voice came out of Zuomo's chest. Before his words landed, his figure disappeared again. The fiend's soul beasts were alarmed and scattered, fleeing in all directions. Zuomo's figure seemed to appear out of thin air beside a fiend's soul beast. Just like the previous one, his hand grabbed the head of this fiend's soul beast. He hadn't expected this fiend's soul beast to be unusually clever. Its figure changed, and it escaped Zuomo's grip. A red light suddenly flashed across the dark red pupils of the fiend's soul beast. Zuomo suddenly felt a burst of dizziness. It was like he had entered the crevasse of a glacier. All the Ling power inside his body seemed to be frozen and he was unable to move at all. The eyes of this fiend's soul beast showed smugness and cruelty. Midair, its body twisted as though it had no bones and it turned to face Zuomo. Its body crouched and jumped without needing to gather power, and like an arrow leaving the bowstring, it leapt at Zuomo. The cold and sharp fangs and claws swiped out cold lights in the air. The lights flashed towards Zuomo's throat. Suddenly, a fist appeared without warning in its field of vision and dramatically enlarged. Boom! Like a large drum being struck but also with a metallic clang. This fist firmly punched the fiend's soul beast without any finesse. The moment the fist and its body touched, threads of mist roiled on the surface of its body. With speed even faster than just before, it flew backwards. Bam! Midair, a golden figure flashed, and the fiendish soul beast that was retreating immediately changed directions and smashed heavily into the ground. The ground trembled and dust flew up. When the dust dissipated, there were only a few spoils of victory left in the large hole. The other fiend's soul beast showed terror. They whined a few times before turning and fleeing. They did not lack intelligence to have survived and grown up in such a cruel and harsh place. Zuomo's surroundings instantly became silent. Gradually, the blood slowly faded from Zuomo's eyes. The angry and savagery inside was vented, and his mind became clear. With clarity came a strong feeling of exhaustion. His legs softened and he sat down on the ground. The sweat permeated his entire body. Weakness and softness came. He panted hard. His rushed breathing in his ears were like bellows. His heart gradually calmed down. Zuomo had a grimace on his lips. It seemed that his resolve was not strong enough. Full of self-disdain, he couldn't help but think back to his journey. Without realizing it, he felt his heart was warmed. No matter how terrible the situation was, he would always have a crowd of people beside him, following him, fighting with him, risking their lives together with him. No matter how dangerous the future was, everyone was still supporting him, trusting him, following him, and protecting him. A slight smile on the corners of his mouth, his heart gradually became warm and calm. The sky full of fiendish mist in his eyes seemed to become an endless bright blue sky. A strong will silently birthed and spread inside. He balled his fists. When he raised his head again, the confusion had cleared and was replaced by strong will. After resting for a moment, Zhuo found a terrible problem and his face instantly fell. Damn it, how was he to return? At this time, a proud bird figure slowly stalked its bird walk and appeared in his vision. Chapter 397, Totem Fragments. Even though Silly Bird's gaze was still so proud, so discontent, but in front of Zhuo's scoundrel-like and hoodlum laugh, there was nothing to do. Zhuo used his arms and legs to climb onto Silly Bird's back and pretended to be dead. However, Zhuo was muttering on the inside. After Silly Bird's strength had strangely skyrocketed, her personality had become even prouder. Adding on that all the little ones listened to her, she acted as the leader of them all, and completely forgot her actual profession as a steed, much less think of him, the owner. This could not be tolerated. Education could not be relaxed. Planning on educating Silly Bird, Zhuo was going to speak when he felt himself shoot up. His entire body was almost thrown off. With a shake, he hurriedly hugged Silly Bird's neck. When they were flying in the air, the feeling was completely different. It was like lightning. The wind blew so hard Zhuo could not open his eyes. Such an exhilarating speed caused Zhuo to be in a good mood. Hands tightly grabbing onto Silly Bird's slender neck, he raised his head and started to sing. I want to fly even higher, ah ah ah. The cymbal-like sound flew across the sky. Silly Bird's eyes looked back with unfriendliness and glanced maliciously at Zhuo, who was in a world of his own. Her wings suddenly flapped and she flew straight up. Ah ah ah. Zhuo's wail followed Silly Bird's acceleration as they floated up. When he dismounted from Silly Bird's back, his legs were as soft as noodles. His entire person was intoxicated as though he was drunk. Before he walked a few steps, he found all the little ones had come over, nudging and crowding intimately around Silly Bird. Like the moon surrounded by stars, Silly Bird didn't even look at Zhuo stalking her bird walk. She flounced off. That presence, that manner, it made Zhuo gape. Suddenly recalling what Silly Bird looked like before, Zhuo couldn't help but laugh. After shaking his head in self-mockery, he went into the tent. Ague, who was in the corner of the tent, saw Zhuo come in, and the wooden and empty pupils seemed to become slightly more livelier. Ague, have you rested well these days? Just like usual, even though he knew that Ague would not reply, Zhuo spoke to her as he took out his spoils. When the tiny sound, that was like that of an ant, landed in Zhuo's ears and was akin to thunder, Zhuo's movements suddenly froze. He raised his head, and his face was filled with disbelief. The disbelief on his face rapidly turned to ecstasy. He shot in front of Ague. Ague, you can speak? Ague's face was wooden, her pupils empty, and she was unresponsive to Zhuo's words as though the sound of response had been Zhuo's delusion. That definitely had not been a delusion. Zhuo's eyes were filled with joy. Even though Ague's body gradually shows signs of a good turn, but the response today was a breakthrough. Ague, can you hear me speak? Zhuo slowed his talking speed and tried to make his tone warm. His eyes looked hard at Ague's face. It was another mosquito-sized response. It caused Zhuo to break out in a grin. He jumped up like a child and whooped. Ha! Ague can talk. Ague can talk. A slight ripple was produced in Ague's empty pupils. After celebrating, Zhuo inspected Ague's body. He quickly found that the purple energy inside Ague's body had grown. The purple energy inside Ague's body was the decisive change and surely had an effect in Ague's recovery. But this purple energy was extremely dark and unpredictable. Even Pu Yao did not know of its origins. Even weirder was that Zhuo could not sense any signs of life from the purple energy. It was the extreme opposite. It was dark, varied, and filled with destructiveness, the presence of death. Theoretically, such a strange power should bring death, so how come it could make Ague recover? Even though he did not understand, Zhuo couldn't help but ponder the purple energy. How could he increase the strength of the purple energy? This thought flashed through Zhuomo's mind. Calming down, Zhuo suppressed the urgency inside. He had to be cautious with this matter. Ague's body was extremely delicate. Any change, and there was a possibility the body could shatter into pieces. Those two sounds of response seemed to have taken great energy from Ague. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Seeing her state, Zhuo hurriedly quieted down and carefully laid her down. After thinking for a long time, Zhuo finally returned his attention to his spoils. This time, he had killed 2 fiend soul beasts, and the spoils that remained were slightly strange. It was strange because there was something else other than the fiend soul beast bead and the remnants of limbs. It was a piece of metal about the size of a fingernail. There were some special patterns on the surface of the piece. Zhuo felt the patterns were like seal scripts. This piece was left behind by the fiend soul beast that froze his Ling power. The composition of the metal was extremely unique. Zhuo could not say what it was made out of and had never seen the scripts on it before. Luckily, there was an old antique from 3,000 years ago with him. "Pu, do you recognize this?" Pu Yao sprouted out and grabbed the piece from Zhuo's hand. Putting it on front of his eyes and studying it, his expression was grave as he shook his head. "I can see it is something ancient, but I don't know what it actually is." Zhuo was not shocked. If this really was the sealed extinction battlefield, it was normal to not recognize something from tens of thousands of years ago. "Can I have a look?" Wei suddenly spoke. Pu Yao glanced at Wei and threw the fragment in his hand over. Wei received it, put it in front of him, and closely inspected it. This is a fragment of a totem. In order to be preserved until now, it should be the best part of the totem. The patterns on it is a kind of ancient totem. Wei's black eyes flashed with an unique light. "Ancient totem?" Zhuo had a shocked expression. "It is a kind of primitive seal script," Wei explained. In ancient times humans, Yao or Mo lived in tribes. They gradually formed their own beliefs and totems were born from that. The Xiuzhi scripts were developed from totems. However, the two have core differences. Seal scripts are the changes of Ling power, while totems are related to Ling power, they are related more to sacrificial offerings. Sacrificial offering? Sacrificial offerings are the most important matters of each tribe. When Wei spoke to this, he suddenly said, "I cannot explain the reason behind this." But this was enough for Zhuo and Pu Yao to feel shock. The person and the Yao exchanged a look and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Wei could speak so much about such ancient matters. What was this guy's true origins? Then what is the use of this totem fragment? Zhuo raised the fragment in his hand and asked what he was most concerned about. Wei said, "The best materials that each tribe could find were used to make totems. Other than being made of extraordinary material, it must have undergone countless years of sacrificial offerings to survive tens of thousands of years and not be destroyed. Maybe this fragment has Ling kernel." "Has Ling kernel?" Zhuo's eyes lit up. He hurriedly channeled his spiritual power into the fragment in his hand, but when his consciousness was blocked on the outside, he was even happier. Ling kernel. It actually was Ling kernel. The stronger the material resisted, it meant the higher the grade of the Ling kernel of the material. Materials that had Ling kernels, no matter what material it was the best materials. Because the talismans that could be forged from it could have cognition. Talismans that had cognition meant they had room to grow, for example, the pagoda. There were countless ways to substitute for the poor quality of a material, but Ling kernel was something that was a matter of chance. He had picked up a treasure. Zhuo suddenly became excited. He was just saying, how could such a big and ancient battlefield not leave behind anything good? He understood now. The fiendish energy of this place was so thick that the fiend soul beasts born were intelligent. If there was anything good, they could not have escaped the eyes of these fiend soul beasts. It seemed the good stuff of this ancient battlefield had been divided up by the fiend soul beasts. Zhuo's eyes flashed greedily and his drool escaped the corner of his mouth. If this was the case, they only needed to focus on the fiend soul beasts. Thinking about the endless fiendish mist, and the abundant fiend soul beasts. Heavens! Zhuamo's drool dripped. Those ugly fiend soul beasts suddenly became peerlessly adorable in his eyes. The prizes of hunting fiend soul beasts were only remnants of limbs and fiend soul beasts. Supposedly, those remnants could be used to make MO weapons, but for Zhuamo right now, there wasn't any big uses. Fiend soul beast beads were slightly useful but were unable to stir Zhuamo's interest. But right now, the totem fragment was enough to move Zhuamo's heart and upend his soul. What could materials with Ling kernels be used for? Making talismans. Who wouldn't want many talismans? Who wouldn't want many good talismans? Also, Zhuamo knew that everyone in the camp was hunting the fiend soul beasts for practice. TSK, able to increase combat experience, able to increase cultivation, and able to get good things. Such a good opportunity, where else could he find it? He suddenly recalled that everyone had killed many fiend soul beasts these days. Then in the spoils, like his but was on fire, he rushed out and headed for Bao. The pitiful Bao Yi was frightened when he saw Zhuamo. When he heard Zhuamo ask about the spoils from hunting fiend soul beasts, he hurriedly pointed them out. Seeing the items piled up in the corner like garbage, Zhuamo instantly felt pain in his heart. He quickly found 2 more totem fragments from the pile. So risky. Pearls in the dust. He was full of self-blame. Hadn't ever thought that in little Emoj almost let something good slip by. He then gravely instructed Bao Yi to take good care of these things, especially fragments like what he had. Bao Yi was clever. Seeing the pain on Boss' face, cold sweat instantly poured down and he agreed frantically. Coming out of Bao Yi's place, Zhuamo instantly ran to Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp to pass down the instructions regarding the totem fragments. If someone threw away the totem fragments like garbage, he wouldn't even have the time to cry. After doing all this, he finally relaxed and started to ponder another problem. What talismans could be forged from this? Chapter 398, The New Mood of Golden Crow Camp. Speaking of forging, Zhuamo had not done it for a very long time. In the past, he had needed to rely on the power of talismans. He had an unorthodox background in forging, but he did have a powerful weapon in Golden Crow Fire. Adding on that he had practiced arduously, his handiwork was relatively good. When his cultivation path had leaned towards emphasizing Great Day Mo physique later on, the time spent practicing forging and dan-making had naturally been reduced. Rawness was one factor, and the other was the lack of high-level forging techniques. This caused him to not know what talisman to forge with the totem fragments on hand, even though he had a 6th grade flame, the Great Day Striped Flame. Also, these totem fragments were great materials, but he wasn't familiar with them at all. After wavering for a while, Zhuamo still decided to go to Golden Crow Camp. The campsite of Golden Crow Camp was completely different than others. Only they had set up camp on a slave transporting boat. The entire interior of the slave transporting boat had been completely remodeled. It wasn't just the layout that was completely different, almost all the formations had been changed. Every board of the ship had been carved with large and small formations. Right now, the structural integrity of this slave transporting boat was frightening. This group of people were extremely bored yet also scared of death. So they used everything they could think of to ensure this boat as their lifesaver. At the very center of the boat was the most important talisman of this slave transporting boat, the Crimson Fiend Cauldron. The present Crimson Fiend Cauldron had shrunk to the height of a person. The cauldron had also turned from crimson red to jet black. Its design had been simple to start with, and now it seemed even denser and dignified. The Crimson Fiend Cauldron had continuously tempered itself and now showed signs that it was going to level up. At the present, the Crimson Fiend Cauldron had become the heart of this slave transporting boat. Every day, it turned large amounts of fiendish energy into Ling power and passed the Ling power through the dense spiderweb formations to every corner of the slave transporting boat. Some Ling plant farmers decided to just stay in the rooms and plant Ling grains together. The beast speakers, led by Chun Yucheng, raised all kinds of Ling beasts in the boat. It was possible to hear the calls of all kinds of Ling beasts and very busy workers. Everyone loved this boat. The density of Ling energy inside the slave-transporting boat could compare to some secret paradises. What satisfied everyone the most was the atmosphere inside the boat, especially after Mo had assigned the study of Mo matrices to Golden Crow Camp. The seal Shio that had originally been in Vermilion Bird Camp had been moved here to study Mo matrices together. These production Shioja were not as fearless as combat Shioja, but they had more skills. Additionally, the mood of the Golden Crow Camp was very liberal. The two masters, Ji Wei and Sun Bao, encouraged everyone to play around, so the youthfulness and liveliness of this group of young people were expressed to the maximum. In this place, every person could do what interested them. There was nothing that was forced upon them, but it was not easy if they just wanted to get by through slacking. One factor was that the mood was so, and everyone looked down upon those that slacked off. The other factor was, beyond their basic needs, every person's income and access to resources was based on their efforts. If one wanted more materials, wanted more spells, then work hard. So when Mo visited Golden Crow Camp again, the completely new Golden Crow Camp stunned him. Fortunately, every still recognized boss. The two masters quickly hurried over. Darren. The two respectfully bowed. Their cultivations had improved greatly and reached the later stages of Ningmai. Mo looked at the two people and found that their complexions were much better than they had been in the past. Thinking about their cautious and timid conduct of the past, and looking at the steady presence of these two people, it was a completely different world. Mo said with a smile, "It seems everyone is living pretty well." "This place isn't actually bad," Sun Bao said with a smile. "Everyone has something to do, the Ling power is abundant, and there is materials to waste. It's natural for us to live well." The two of them were very content with the present life. They were all people that were intoxicated with forging and very experienced. The spells and formations that Mo had given them could be said to be invaluable. Adding on the abundant Ling power inside the slave-transporting boat, the two of them even felt indications of having a breakthrough. However, what made the two of them feel the most proud about was not their individual breakthroughs, but the growth of the entire Golden Crow Camp. The good atmosphere, the abundant supplies, large amounts of spells as reference, and all kinds of novel problems had caused the youthful Shioja of Golden Crow Camp to grow at astounding speed. These young Shioja of meager backgrounds did not waste such a valuable opportunity. Their efforts and hard work caused both masters to feel very comforted. "Has Darren come for the golden-winged great rock?" Jiwei asked. Master Jiawei's question reminded Mo. He hurriedly asked, "How's the progress on the golden-winged great rock?" "We've only solved half." Jiwei said embarrassedly, "The golden-winged great rock matrix is extremely complex. Our cultivation is not enough." Thankfully, with the addition of Li Zhuo, the rate of advancement quickened. Up until now, we have found 3 formations and they are wondrous. The two people's faces were bright. The wonders of the 3 formations had broadened their visions. The reason that the two of them showed signs of core formation was a benefit from comprehending these 3 formations. Mo had formed some impression of Li Zhuo. At Ningmai stage and he was able to forge second-grade seal soldiers. He was very talented. "This is not urgent, we advance go slowly." Mo knew how complex the golden-winged great rock matrix was. In the past, he had studied it for a long time. He was already shocked at Ji Wei and the others' advancement speed. He then stated the goal of his trip. "I've come this time for another matter." The two hurriedly peeked their ears. Mo took out the totem fragments and handed them to the two. These are fragments of ancient totems that have remained over tens of thousands of years. They have formed Ling kernels. Ancient totem fragments. Ling kernels. The two paled. Mo's words instantly destroyed their mental barriers. These are good, but even the best stuff, if they cannot be used, are useless. Mo continued, "I've come to find you to see what ways you guys have to forge them into talismans." Sun Bao and Ji Wei stared at each other. After a while, Sun Bao hesitantly opened. "Why doesn't Darren forge them? Such a precious treasure, it would be too much of a pity if it was ruined." Mo naturally would be ashamed to say that his skills had been laid to waste. However, facing the duo's worries, he said with a smile, "Don't worry about ruining them." After speaking, he took out 2 more pieces. The 2 instantly became dumbstruck. "These might be valuable, but everyone should not be timid due to this," Zuaemo said smugly. "These have come from the bodies of the fiend soul beasts. We probably can get more in the future." Sun Bao and Ji Wei's eyes instantly lit up. No forging shoujo would not be moved when they heard this. "You guys take it and study it." Zuaemo gave each of them a totem fragment and kept one for himself. He didn't want to lose a skill like forging that could earn jingsher. If he became poor one day, he might have to rely on this to eat. Also, he had the 6th grade flame, Great Day striped flame. It would be too much of a pity if his forging skills were left to rust. He asked Sun Bao to find an empty room and started to ponder it himself. Xiaomo Go. Ming Yuzi, who was sweeping around the Yao city, saw this name, and his gaze couldn't help but still as he stopped walking. He had a surprised expression. To be able to see Xiao Moji's bounty on the Yao city of the 3rd prison, that meant that Xiao Mogu had already entered the 3rd prison. With Xiao Moji's strength, it did not surprise him that Xiao Mogu had entered the 3rd prison. What surprised him was that Xiao Mogu had put up a bounty of his own. Ming Juzi's first response was, "Is this guy wanted to retaliate against the Ji family?" His fingertips swiped across this bounty. The contents that opened up caused his to still. Battle of Seal Extinction? This extremely unfamiliar phrase caused Ming Juzi to not remember anything about it in a moment. A while later, he finally recalled some blurry impression about the Battle of Sealed Extinction. The curiosity in Ming Juzi's heart instantly rose. He hurriedly read on. Xiao Moji's bounty desired information on the Battle of Sealed Extinction. The more specific, the better, and they could even talk face to face. He then looked at the reward. His heart instantly jumped. It was a very high number. This was an extremely strange bounty. The requirements of the bounty was very indistinct, just that the more specific the better. And the goal of the bounty was unusually obscure. A battle that happened in ancient times? Xiao Mogu was a historical enthusiast? This speculation was too funny. Did he have some treasure map of the Battle of Sealed Extinction? That was possible. If it was like that, then it was very probably that Xiao Mogu would put up such a bounty. Thinking about the results of his past investigation, Ming Juzi's heart suddenly started to burn. He had expended great energy to finally pin down what high-level Yao arts were used by Nan Yu and Song Zhe. South Sky Arrow art and Gray Scar art. These 2 Yao arts that had been lost for a long time once again appeared in front of the word, and the crux of this entire matter all pointed to one Yao, Xiao Mogu. Maybe. Thinking about this, Ming Juzi decided to take this quest. Bao Yi felt today was an unfortunate day. Just after Boss had left, Gong Sun Darren had arrived. It was fine to interact with Boss, but he couldn't help but tremble whenever he interacted with Gong Sun Darren. Whenever he saw Gong Sun Darren's peerlessly bashful smile, he couldn't help but shiver. "Darren, do you have any orders?" Bao Yi was very respectful. "I've come to find Fiend Soul Beast beads." Gong Sun Cha was slightly embarrassed. For some unknown reason, when he saw Gong Sun Cha's shy expression like that of a 17-year-old, Bao Yi's legs started to tremble slightly. How many do you need?" "Give me all of them." Gong Sun Cha seemed to be even more embarrassed. If it was any other person that came to Bao Yi and said this, he would definitely kick them in the face. Opening their mouths and demanding all of a certain material? Go dream. But facing Gong Sun Darren, he said with the utmost respect, "Yes." Immediately, he used the fastest speed he was able to achieve to take out all the Fiend Soul Beast beads and gave them to Gong Sun Cha. Gong Sun Cha contentedly left. Bao Yi's legs softened and he sat down on the ground with lingering fear on his face. He finally sent off this killing god. However, he was slightly puzzled. What did Gong Sun Darren want so many Fiend Soul Beast beads for? Chapter 399, Weaknesses. How was your troops' harvest today? A Vermilion Bird Camp Shioja asked his comrade beside him. "Alright, it's better than a few days ago. We killed 2 Fiend Soul Beasts, but our luck wasn't bad, and we got one totem fragment. This fellow was truly proud inside, but he pretended to be indifferent. You guys really got lucky, the other said with admiration. I don't know what is going on right now, so many good things becoming available at once. Did you see that Darren has announced 3 more kinds of formations that can be engraved? Yes. They're really good. He licked his lips and was full of desire. Much stronger than the engraved formations that were carved previously. However, the number of points that need to be used is really not cheap. There's no reason for good things to be cheap. The person seemed very experienced. And it's just for us. Outsiders don't even need to think about it. Even Ma-Fan Darren has been furiously hunting Fiend Soul Beast these days. Isn't it because he wants to trade for the engraved formations? Huh, that's true. Everyone is crazy. Who can sit still now? I'm not going to chat, going to work now. The faster I get points, the earlier I can get the formations engraved. In these past days, the relatively peaceful camp's ambition had instantly been ignited by Zwamo's announcement. He had announced the 3 new formations, and the number of points needed for them to be engraved. In addition, it was also announced that the mission for obtaining points would be the collection of totem fragments and Fiend Soul Beast beads. The number of points needed for each of the 3 newly announced formations were not low, but when everyone finished looking at the descriptions of the 3 formations, their eyes instantly turned red. A furious hunting wave had started due to this. Compared to Vermilion Bird Camp, Guard Camp was much more peaceful. The engraved formations did not have much use for them. What they cultivated was the fleshy body, but it did not mean that we're not moved to action this time. Fiend Soul Beast beads and totem fragments could be traded for points. For them, points were also of great use. However, Shu Long did not leave the camp and instead stayed locked up inside his tent by himself. He was cultivating Great Day Hardship Guard. This MO skill had been greatly modified by Pu Yao again. Compared to Hardship Guard, Great Day Hardship Guard was higher level. But the cultivation difficulty had also increased greatly. Out of caution, Pu Yao had Shu Long cultivate it first to prevent any problems from appearing. Hardship Guard was a MO skill especially suited for those that did not have outstanding talent but were persistent. The Great Day Hardship Guard that Pu Yao had modified had used Hardship Guard as the basis for a new MO skill. Even though his primary area was Yao Arts, to a peak expert like him that could touch the core nature of power, one solution was every solution. His knowledge was extremely broad. To say nothing of Yao Arts, he had studied an extraordinary amount of spells and MO skills. Even Wei praised it after analyzing this Great Day Hardship Guard that he created. Afterwards, Wei had made adjustments to some details and further perfected it. The Great Day Hardship Guard, for which 2 great experts had teamed up to create, was a top-level MO skill even in the MO world. But this top-level MO skill was not so easy to cultivate. Pu Yao had added in many methods of cultivating from the Great Day MO Physique, or rather, the cultivation of MO Physiques. The cultivation of MO Physiques was extremely dangerous. Shu Long's entire body was tense. The armor on his body liquefied at a rate visible to the naked eye into a jet black liquid. Moments later, this black liquid wrapped him completely to the point even his eyes could not be seen. The hardest step is over, Pu Yao said, indifferent from within Zwamo's consciousness. I feel some anticipation. Wei's eyes flashed. If he can really cultivate into a MO physique, he did not say what was after, but Pu Yao understood what Wei meant. If Shu Long could really cultivate into a MO physique, that meant that the possibility that other people could cultivate into MO physiques was very high. In the MO world, the ability to cultivate into a MO physique depended on bloodlines and talent. If Shu Long could really cultivate into a MO physique, that Pu Yao undoubtedly had opened a completely new path. To cultivate into a MO physique by cultivating MO skills, instead of innate talent. Wei was very clear about the terrifying power encapsulated in this. Such a terrifying madman. Zwamo's expression was ugly as he stared at the totem fragment in his hand. There was an aura of ancient desolation in this tiny fragment that made him think of the wasteland beast. Even though the presence of the totem fragment was not as powerful, vast, or savage as the wasteland beast, that bleakness was extremely similar. However, the bleakness of the wasteland beast carried a deathly stillness, and the bleakness of this totem fragment had birthed an extremely tiny thread of vitality. That was the Ling kernel. Tens of thousands of years had caused this little fragment of life essence to birth a thread of cognition. He was almost certain that normal forging methods were unsuitable for the totem fragment. Normal forging methods could easily destroy the Ling kernel of the totem fragment. That would be a great pity. Zuo placed great importance on this totem fragment. Due to this, he had specially used the Great Day Banded Flame to reforge the Sonic Lightning Walnuts to familiarize himself with the more domineering and purer Great Day Banded Flame. It had to be said that the 6th grade flame's strength was as extraordinary as expected. He had almost forged a Sonic Lightning Walnut into a pile of silver water. The dominant nature of the fire could be seen. This also caused Zuo to realize his weakest area. The skill of a forger was primarily decided by 3 factors. The first was forging knowledge. One had to be familiar with all kinds of materials, their combinations, and the formations. The second was cultivation. One's cultivation directly determined the control over the flame, the carving of formations. The higher the formation, the more complex it was, and the more it demanded of Ling power. The third were forging tools, fire seeds and cauldrons. If it was a water method, one also needed Ling springs and cold ponds, etc. Zuo was not weak on forging knowledge. Even though he did not understand high-level forging methods, he had read a great variety of forging jade scrolls. In the area of formations, the entire Golden Crow camp had no one that could compare to him. After the grind of the 10-finger prison, the endless Yao arts broadened his visions, and his affinity for formations came even more easily to him. And tools were his strong points. 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame was definitely a peak fire seed that could not be bought with Jingxure. His weakest area was cultivation. When he had been reforging the Sonic Lightning Walnut, he had detected this. In terms of cultivation, he was just in Ningmai. Originally, he had not felt this kind of cultivation was low, but when he had channeled the Great Day Banded Flame today, he had found just how weak his Ling power was. The Great Day Banded Flame was like a colossal being, and his Ling power wasn't enough to even get a good glance at it. If the Great Day Banded Flame had not been formed from his Great Day Mo physique and was from the same origins, he would have been harmed in the backlash, much less channeled it. Now Zuo was depressed. What was more depressing than having a treasure and not being able to use it? Cultivation, cultivation. He was stuck at cultivation. Deeply struck by this blow, Zuo ran into the sea of consciousness and found Pu Yao. He asked without any greeting, "Pu, is there any methods that can immediately increase my cultivation?" Pu Yao looked at Zuo like he was looking at an idiot. "What do you think Ling power is?" Zuo was unsatisfied. "Are there really no methods?" "I do have a good amount of spells here." Pu Yao glanced at Zuo, "but with your quality of physique, you probably have to cultivate 10 more years to reach Jindan. Unless you have worldly treasures. Do you have such things?" Zuo was instantly sorrowful. Worldly treasures that could increase cultivation, how could he have those? With his present Ling power, it was a delusion to think that he could control the 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame. It wasn't that he had not thought of using formations to control the Great Day Banded Flame, but no normal materials could tolerate the 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame. Damn it. Wasn't he wasting it? Zuo turned to Wei. Wei also showed an apologetic expression. He also didn't have any good solutions. Coming out of the sea of consciousness, Zuo's mood was terrible. The Great Day Banded Flame was a top fire seed, the totem fragment was a top material, but he could only stare at them. It wasn't even as good as Golden Crow Fire. That was just 4th grade, but at least he could control that easily. He finally realized a great problem. Ling power would always be his greatest weakness, and he had to improve in it unless he wanted to give up on dan making and forging. No matter if it was Yao arts or Mo skills, they were very powerful, but they could not replace Ling power's uses in other areas. Fine, he wouldn't think on it so much. Surviving and leaving the sealed extinction battlefield was the biggest priority right now. Zuoremo quickly let go of his mood. He ran into the 10-finger prison. He first went to the Yao city and received a letter left for him. The writer was a Yao named Ming Juzi. He had written detailed inquiries on what kind of information Zuoremo needed on the battle of sealed extinction. This letter instantly caused Zuomo's low mood to rise greatly. Compared to his losses in forging, the information on the battle of sealed extinction was much more important. He hurriedly wrote a response and replied to every question the other had. After doing this, Zuomo's depression was swept away. He excitedly ran to the wasteland beast chessboard to find Nanyu and Song Zhe. However, he did not find the two but found Song Lin first. This young person was gradually recovering and was very happy when he saw Zuoremo. Song Zhe was one of the primary hopes of the clan and was urgently cultivating gray scar art. A short while later, Zuoremo saw a slightly tired Nanyu. Due to the defeats at the front lines, everyone was furiously cultivating now. Nanyu had a strong feeling of danger and was furiously teaching her clansmen to cultivate. Zuoremo thought of Nanyu's financial situation. The front lines had lost, so the prices of necessities would definitely have skyrocketed. Nanyu's days were probably very difficult. He gave a portion of the money he had to Nanyu. Having experienced war, Zuoremo told her to spend more time on cultivation. In troubled times, strength was the basis of survival. Nanyu pressed her lips together tightly. She did not refuse and seriously nodded. Zuoremo explained in detail what to pay attention to during wartime. These were all his experiences. Nanyu was not the only one to listen carefully. Song Lin, who was at the side, hurriedly cast a recording Yao art to record Zuomo's words. Zuomo's stream of words caused Song Lin to think. Had Darren experienced war before? Was Darren at the front lines? His heart was filled with questions. Chapter 400 Draft Notice. Zuoremo was downcast at the thought that his Ling power was a constraint, but he was not demotivated by this. Instead, it had roused his fighting spirit. Didn't have any other ways? What he first thought of was the 5-element glass bead inside his body. This 5-element glass bead was of extraordinary origins and greatly increased his affinity towards the 5 elements. When he had been at Wukong Mountain, he had benefited greatly from this. At present, the 5-element glass bead was not one of Zuomo's top talismans, but it was closely connected to Zuomo's origins and had a special importance. Zuoremo had always been preoccupied and was unable to study it. At this time, Zuoremo thought of it. The 5-element glass bead had merged into Zuomo's blood and flesh, so he could only inspect it with his consciousness. However, when his consciousness inspected the 5-element glass bead, it was blocked by a gentle power. Zuoremo stilled. He recalled that Pu Yao had said to him that something was sealed inside the 5-element glass bead. A cautious expression came onto his face. This Ling power was not strong, but it was very pure. The sealer should be a Xiuzhe above Jindan. Surprised by his finding, Zuoremo didn't think much about it. In these 2 short years, he had encountered many battles and had almost died a few times. His life philosophies had also changed. Like his stance regarding his changed appearance and his origins, he still cared greatly and would endeavor to discover the truth, but he would not be as impulsive as he had been in the past. Facing the threat of war, living in an unpredictable environment where he could perish at a moment's notice, surviving was more important than anything else. Having personally experienced the cruelties of war, he knew just how small and insignificant a person's life was. They were like a sapling in the middle of the storm. It took all of his strength to struggle and search for that thread of life. After being baptized in battle, his heart was much stronger, and his self-control was stronger as well. Pu Yao had also clearly told him that he could not break the seal on the 5-element glass bead with his low cultivation. So Zuoremo was not astonished about his failure. His consciousness wrapped around the 5-element glass bead. Zuoremo tried to find the smallest weakness in the seal, but this thin layer of Ling power showed him that difference between cultivation stages was not so easy to overcome. He shook his head, withdrew his consciousness from the 5-element glass bead. His hopes of using the 5-element glass bead was bankrupt. Then what methods were there? While Zhuomo's mind dwelled on the topic, a light flashed through his mind. He thought of another method, Yao arts. Could he use Yao arts to forge? Yao arts could also control fire. Of all Yao arts, 5-element Yao arts were something every Yao knew a little of because they were powerful and easy to learn. Zhuomo's fire Yao art skill was not his best, but it wasn't bad. However, the fire of fire Yao arts and the fire of forging had fundamental differences. Formations needed a medium in order to be engraved onto talismans, and flames could act as the medium. Fire Yao arts might have powerful fires, but they could not be used in this manner. Why so? Zhuomo sank into thought. If things were different, Zhuomo would not waste time on such a ridiculous problem, but there was no way around it. Even if it was ridiculous, he still had to do it. As he thought, Zhuomo's right hand unconsciously cast a fire Yao art. The simplest fire Yao art of little Yao arts, fire. A weak flame wavered on the tip of his finger. Zhuomo was extremely familiar with little Yao arts. His mind did not need to move, and the wisp of flame twisted and danced around his finger like a snake of fire. He closely felt every detail of the wisp. The snake of fire was very nimble and spirited. Deep in thought, Zhuomo completely did not realize the flow of time. Draft notice. Heavy Earth Core had sent a draft notice. Nanyu looked at the draft notice in her hand. Her heart suddenly sank. The draft notice was compulsory. The tense wording requested the draftee to report to Heavy Earth Core before a deadline. The one being drafted was not Nanyu. She did show potential, but her strength was not enough that she qualified for a draft. The draft notice was for Darren. Nanyu quickly understood. They could not find Darren's location, but it was not hard to find her origins. Her mood instantly became dour. She had followed Darren for a while and generally grasped Darren's temper. Darren definitely would ignore this draft notice. At that time, conflict would be unavoidable. Which person was scheming against Darren from the shadows? She turned and looked at the clansmen that were working hard on their cultivation. Her gaze was full of worry, but then her determination rose up. She quickly entered the Wasteland Beast chessboard. No matter what, she had to let Darren know as soon as possible. Darren would definitely have a solution. She was filled with confidence. The black fire wrapped around a golden armor guard. The golden armor guard stood motionlessly like a wooden puppet. Pu Yao's hands were like two blooming flowers. Yao arts rained down and entered the bodies of the golden armor guards. Pity, the materials are a bit lacking, Wei said with slight pity. Due to the combination of Pu Yao's skilled techniques and the large amounts of black fiendish energy the golden armored guards absorbed from this vicious and fiendish ground, they had the conditions to level up. The only thing Wei felt pity about was that these golden armor guards had all been Xiuzhe that cultivated the sword before death. The door-sized swords they held were frightening to see, but if it was a Mo with a strong body, the power would have been several levels higher. Let's just work with what we have, Pu Yao said lazily. Compared to the past, these days are already much better. Wei nodded and agreed with Pu Yao's words. This vicious ground to Zhuomo and the others was undoubtedly a poor one. However, for Pu Yao and Wei, it was much better than Wukong Mountain. At the very least, they no longer needed to constantly worry about that withered old man suddenly coming with his sword to exterminate Yao Ma. Your student seems to have encountered trouble, Wei reminded Pu Yao. I can't help him, Pu Yao said unconcernedly. His hands did not stop. Do you understand that the methods of Xiuzhe forging? Wei shook his head. Mo cultivate their bodies and cannot forging. It's not that you cannot understand, but there is no need to understand. Pu Yao was clearly opposed to the Xiuzhe methods. Yao cultivate the spirit, Mo their bodies. Why do they need to forge? If he wants to work on forging, he can only rely on himself. Wei was silent for a moment before he suddenly said, why not let him cultivate Yao arts and Mo skills at the same time? If you don't want all of us to end up dead, it's best if you do not have such a dangerous idea, Pu Yao said warningly. If he dies, you and I cannot escape either. It already makes me feel unsafe that he cultivated a MO physique. Who made it so that your MO physique cultivation is so dangerous? I don't want to die so soon. MO physique cultivation is not as dangerous as you think. Pu Yao impatiently interrupted Wei. If there are safer ways, then why risk it? Do you have a problem with your head? If you want to find a successor, other than him, you can pick anyone. Guard camp has so many people, just pick one. Shu Long isn't bad, how about it? Have you considered it? Wei shook his head. His talent is not enough. Wake up. Pu Yao was full of disdain. Look at our state, you are still holding on to those traditions. It's already good if you can find a successor, yet you're still so picky. Pu Yao ranted on disdainfully, but his hand movements did not slow at all. When the last few lights entered the bodies of the golden armor guards, he finally showed slight satisfaction. The golden armor guards were completely transformed. The scaled golden armor that had covered their bodies had disappeared, a complete suit of heavy black armor replaced it. The heavy armor was fitted so well it seemed like one object. They were like metal monsters. The terrifying presence that emanated from their bodies made people fearful. Black spikes protruded from their shoulders, elbows, knees, and other important places. The tip of each black spike was a strange blood-like red. At the crown of their helmets was a rhombus-shaped golden mark that resembled the blood rhombus on Pu Yao's forehead. Pu Yao rubbed his chin and scanned the new golden armor guards. He said to himself, "These trashy swords are no longer suitable. Oh, that broken sword in Wei Xing's hands isn't bad. I wonder where he got it?" A moment later, he shook his head and muttered, "Never mind. First we will work on this, let's think about weapons in the future." Suddenly, Pu Yao raised his head and his eyes flashed. At the same time, Wei also raised his head. Lei Peng and Yen Lu's faces were pale white. After Darren had announced the Fiend's Soul Beast hunting mission, everyone was very enthusiastic. Other than engraving new formations, a piece of gossip was secretly passed on. The totem fragments were materials that had Ling kernels. Supposedly Darren had already tasked the Golden Crow camp with studying the forging talismans out of the totem fragments. Those with foresight instantly detected the opportunity. Their past experiences told them if Darren gave something to Golden Crow camp, it probably was in preparation to give to everyone. No matter if it was the new formations or the new talismans that hadn't been forged yet, they all needed to be traded for by points. If they didn't take this opportunity to earn points, were they dumb? Lei Peng and Yen Lu were stronger than the average Vermilion Bird camp members, but they were still weaker than Ma Fan and the others. The two of them decided to pair up to hunt Fiend Soul Beasts. They worked very well together and were efficient, producing great results. The past combat experiences had not been wasted. The strength of Vermilion Bird camp had clearly increased. Many people did not even need to use the sword formation to comprehend sword essence. Of course, part of this was Wei Xing's work. Lei Peng and Yen Lu's improvement was especially evident. The Fiend Soul Beasts they were afraid of in the past gradually became less dangerous for them. Without detecting it, they had traveled a long way from the campsite. Everything had been proceeding smoothly. Their luck was unusually good. They had encountered many more Fiend Soul Beasts than usual. The outstanding result caused the two to start fantasizing about their wonderful future lives, with engraved new formations and using their new talismans, until they encountered this terrifying Fiend Soul Beast. Chapter 401, Big Guy. This Fiend Soul Beast was more than 3 times the size of an average Fiend Soul Beast. Its body shimmered with a metallic sheen. It stared coldly at Lei Peng and Yen Lu. Its icy stare didn't contain any hint of warmth. Lei Peng and Yen Lu felt as though they were 2 little insects about to be stomped under the steps of a colossal giant. The other only needed to gently raise its foot and could crush them. This Fiend Soul Beast was unusually ugly. Its flat head was like that of a toad. The wide maw was tightly clenched and its jaw askew. The hunched posture was poised to strike. Every tense muscle fiber was visible to the eye. Its abnormally thick limbs made it appear asymmetric, but when these unbalanced features were combined together, it left them terror-stricken from the sense of danger. The duo's scalps felt numb, but they did not dare to move rashly. The two of them were experienced. They knew if that they ran right now, there would be no chance of survival. The fiend soul beast was motionless as it gazed down at the duo with indifference. "What do we do?" Lei Peng maintained his posture as he asked in a low voice. "Drag it out." Nian Lu was also motionless. His eyes twirled about. "This thing is making such a spectacle. The others will definitely detect the disturbance. We will drag the fight out until they come to reinforce us." At the same time, the fiend soul beast suddenly opened its mouth. The terrifyingly wide mouth opened like a gaping maw. "Move!" Lei Peng and Yen Lu's bodies moved at the same time. The two of them darted away, one to the right and one to the left, each gathered all the Ling power they could muster. The sword energy and saber energy left their hands at the same time and howled as they flew towards the fiendish soul beast. The fiendish soul beast seemed to not see it. Its eyes widened, and it inhaled through its enormous mouth. The fiendish mist in the surroundings gathered furiously towards its gaping mouth. At a rate visible to the naked eye, a red-black ball of light formed in its open mouth. It actually condensed the fiendish mist it had gathered into a ball of light the size of a fist. Ding ding! Two clear sounds of impact rang out. Lei Peng and Nina Lu's complexions changed. Their sword and saber energies had struck the body of the fiend soul beast and only caused two sparks to fly. What kind of monster was this? These two were both Xiuzhe that had comprehended essence. Their blows had been thrown with all their power, but they hadn't even left a mark behind. The duo's hearts sank. This big guy's strength was far beyond their predictions. A black-red light erupted from the open mouth of the fiend soul beast. It frightened the two into using all of their power to dodge to the sides. Boom! The red and black light lit up behind them. They were not able to react as they thrown backwards and tossed through the air like blades of grass. Pia pia, the instant the two landed on the ground, they were barely able to stabilize themselves. Their legs sunk into the dirt from the force, they were left in a sorry state. They could not dwell on the shock they were feeling. Turning around, the fiendish mist behind them had been swept clean away. Black smoke rose from a 20-zhang wide burnt black pit that stretched out behind them. This was a monster. The duo's faces were ashen white. Ma Fan moved like a ghost in the fiendish mist as he searched for fiend soul beasts. His entire body was covered in faint sword essence. Ever since he had comprehended sword essence manifestation, his strength had leapt forward, but this also made his status slightly awkward, and this was even more evident when Zhong Ru had stepped into Jindan. Compared to his normal fellows, he was much stronger, but he was a step behind the strongest group. After Wei Xing came, and Zhong Ru's core formation, the stage of Jindan had become the sign of being in the first group. It seemed as though he was only one step away from the stage of Jindan, but this step was not so easily crossed. If it wasn't for Wei Xing teaching the principles of the sword, he wouldn't have dared to hope he could break through to Jindan. Zhong Ru's core formation was enormously influential on the entire group. Xie Shan's core formation had been expected due to this many years of cultivation. Teacher Wei's core formation was to be expected due to his talent. Only Zhong Ru's core formation was motivational to everyone. In the camp, Zhong Ru was not the best in strength or the most talented. The fact that he could become Jindan made it that core formation no longer seemed so out of reach in everyone else's eyes. For Ma Fan, other than motivation, this was also a kind of pressure. He suddenly raised his head, his expression was grave. Such a powerful presence. There was a situation. He suddenly changed directions and accelerated to fly towards the energy ripple. There were no other people in this fiendish mist other than their group. As he flew, he muttered inside. Who had such misfortune to encounter a big guy? Ma Fan's movement skill was not low, and after comprehending sword essence which was merged into his movement method, there were few in the camp that could rival him in speed. When he put focused on speed, he was like lightning. If one looked down from high up, they would see that Ma Fan was cutting through the mist like a sharp knife. Behind him, the two waves of air were like the lines of water when a ship traveled through and was extremely pretty. That burst of shocking presence quickly became clearer and Ma Fan's expression became increasingly serious. Boom boom boom. Sounds of explosions continuously echoed from ahead. With each sound, Ma Fan's heart would jump. At just this moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. It was Lei Peng and Yen Lu. The three were teammates from Sky Peak Platoon. Ma Fan was very familiar with the presences of these two, and instantly recognized them. The duo's appearances were messy and panicked, which made it evident that the situation was very dangerous. Ma Fan snorted coldly, and his speed increased again. When he flew closer and saw Lei Peng and Yen Lu's sorry states, fury rose in his eyes. With a long howl, his body suddenly shot up in the air. The sword essence vibrated from his body and continuously increased. When he reached his peak, his sword essence had accumulated to an extreme and was blinding. The fiend soul beast raised its head and shot a fiendish mist bullet towards Ma Fan in the air. Ma Fan could clearly sense the danger from the black-red light. If this was any other situation, he would definitely dodge and wait for a chance to strike. But at this time, his Ling power and sword essence were surging without being held back. He seemed to be inside a burning fire cauldron. Every muscle felt as though it was being sliced by 1,000 knives. He knew those were fine sword essences. His sword essence might have reached the stage of manifestation, but he still needed a considerable amount of practice to control them at will. He had seen Teacher Wei practice the sword. The sword essence was concentrated without a single thread going astray. That was the stage he dreamed about. He tried to control the sword essence around his body and concentrated them inside his flying sword. His blood vessels expanded and were on the verge of rupturing. The countless fine sword essences were like knives, but Ma Fan ignored all of this. All of his attention was focused on the merging of Ling power and sword essence. Teacher Wei had said only when Ling power and sword essences came together would they have the greatest power. With Ling power and no sword essence, it only had the appearance. With sword essence but no Ling power, there was blood but no flesh. All the sword essence and Ling power in his body furiously flew towards the sword. The sword hummed lightly and released a dazzling blue light. This layer of blinding light also covered Ma Fan. The blue light was like a drop of ink that had splattered onto a white piece of paper. It spread outwards at astounding speeds. In the blink of an eye, the area Tenjiang around Ma Fan was as blue as the sky. The black-red light finally reached him. The sword energies that were as blue as the sky tore apart the fiendish mist. In a patch of red-black fiendish mist, it was peerlessly dazzling. Pew! The sword energy sliced across the fiendish mist bullet without any resistance like a hot knife through butter and entered the forehead of the fiendish soul beast. Pew! Black liquid flew and turned to a ball of mist in the air before disappearing. The fiend's soul beast wailed in pain. For the first time, its icy cold eyes showed a ripple of emotion. It seemed unable to believe it had been injured. The ripples quickly turned to anger. The ant-like prey in front of it had actually wounded it. The fiendish mist in the surroundings seemed to have felt an invisible magnetism and furiously flooded towards it. This guy, he is this strong now? Lei Peng was gaping as he stared. Handsome. Too handsome. Yen Lu's face was shocked. They both recognized Ma Fan's sword scripture. 5th grade, Clear Sky sword scripture. It had been a spoil of victory after Darren killed Clear Sky old forefather. There were many in Vermilion Bird Camp that cultivated this sword scripture, since it was a 5th grade sword scripture and was very attractive. However, Ma Fan was the first to cultivate Clear Sky sword scripture to this level. He really was too strong. With one move, Ma Fan was able to wound the fiend's soul beast that they could do nothing to. However, when they saw Ma Fan panting in the air, they realized that this move was at a great cost to Ma Fan. How are you? Lei Peng turned to ask Yen Lu. Battle spirit roiled in his eyes. I won't die. Yen Lu looked at the sky and smiled with slight difficulty. He is such a show-off, how can I let this guy take all the glory? The two rose into the sky and formed a triangle with Ma Fan. When Lei Peng and Yen Lu stood at his flanks behind him, Ma Fan's confidence increased. Between the three, a sharp killing intent formed. The terror in their eyes decreased. This big guy definitely has something good on his body. Lei Peng's eyes flashed viciously. Kill it. Nian Lu said maliciously. Troublesome, Ma Fan muttered. The three figures charged towards the fiend's soul beast. Wei Sheng, Xie Shan, and Zhong Ru flew through the fiendish mist at high speed. They had all detected the alarming presence in the distance and knew a situation had occurred. They had hurriedly acted. Deep in thought, Zhou Mo was ignorant of everything else. The fire Yao art that had been spinning on the tip of his finger suddenly stopped on his palm and burned silently. Zhou Mo's fingers slowly started to move. As his finger movements changed, the Ling power was like an undercurrent that silently wrapped around the wisp of fire. The fire wisp shook and became extremely unstable as though it could extinguish at any moment. Pia pia pia, a string of light explosions sounded around the wisp of fire. The finger movements gradually became faster. The fire wisp shook more fiercely. Suddenly it exploded. In this instant, Zhou Mo's eyes suddenly lit up. He seemed thoughtful. Fire Yao art, consciousness, Ling power, controlling fire. He seemed to see a thread that connected them. Chapter 402. The results from Ming Juzi's investigations. Zhou Mo had received a letter from Ming Juzi. His expression was excited and filled with hope. It said that Ming Juzi had found some important clues. There was nothing that could make Zhou Mo happier than this. Nothing was more urgent. He didn't even stop to go look for Nan Yu and Song Zhe. Ming Juzi quickly appeared. He recognized Zhou Mo at a glance. Sir Xiao Mo Go, I am Ming Juzi. Zhou Mo felt this person was familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen Ming Juzi before. He politely responded, Sir Ming Juzi, good day. Ming Juzi did not waste words and casted a recording Yao art. In here is everything about the battle of sealed extinction, Ming Juzi said. This battle is truly too ancient. There are very few records about it. I'm very sorry, this is all the information that I was able to find. Zhou Mo quickly scanned the contents inside the recording Yao art. The general era in which the battle of sealed extinction occurred was not known, but it was approximately 25,000 years ago. It happened at that place that was called Constant Scarlet Jie. Supposedly, because the fiercest fighting had occurred near the Jie River, the Jie River entrance was destroyed in the fighting, and Constant Scarlet Jie became inaccessible and disappeared from the Jie maps from then on. Zhou Mo looked hard at the ancient Jie map. This Jie map was extremely primitive. Zhou Mo's gaze landed on the several Jie surrounding Constant Scarlet Jie. From these, he could generally judge the position of Constant Scarlet Jie. Sky-fold Jie, Gentle Mountain Jie, and Dazzling Splendor Jie. These three bordered Constant Scarlet Jie. Do you know the general position of Constant Scarlet Jie based on the present Jie maps? Zhou Mo asked Ming Juzi. It is probably in the area of Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. Ming Juzi had prepared well. Constant Scarlet Jie disappeared a long time ago, so it is hard to judge its position. But Skyfold Jie and Dazzling Splendor Jie are presently part of Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. Gentle Mountain Jie is the territory of Xiuzhe and is a dangerous area. If we use these Jie as references, Constant Scarlet Jie should be near the border of Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. People have gone to explore this area before, but no one has found the existence of Constant Scarlet Jie. These questions strengthened Ming Juzi's belief that Xiao Mo Gu was searching for treasure. Otherwise, why would he research the position of Constant Scarlet Jie? Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. Zhou Mo was stunned. Anyone with some common knowledge would know this place. Wasn't that the place for the Yao hunt? From all the news reports, he knew Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie was where the heaviest fighting between Xiuzhe and Yaoma took place. For Zhou Mo, this was not good news. Previously, he had decided to determine his present location and then use transportation formations to leave the ghastly place. But hearing that Constant Scarlet Jie was in Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie, his heart instantly cooled halfway. He had heard the general story of how Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie had formed. Places like these were unsuitable for using transportation formations because the interference caused by the formation was great. When the Yao hunt had been most fashionable in the past, the Xiuzhe attempts in putting down transportation formations inside Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie had never succeeded. All of the supplies had been transported in on treasure ships. Zuo had only a basic understanding of transportation formations. Because he couldn't predict the interference, he didn't dare to move rashly. Any small mistake in the transportation formation was terrifying. The reason that they had been transported to that ghastly place was that someone had changed the transportation formation in Sky Water Jia. This plan seemed to have failed. Zuo quickly discarded this idea. His attention was placed on another sentence. The bulk of the fighting was near the Jie River. This sentence caused Zuo's eyes to light up. After searching through the fiendish mist all this time, they had discovered some trends. The closer to the center of the battlefield they went, the heavier the black fiendish energy was, and the stronger the fiend soul beasts. If it was like that? Zuo quickly organized his thoughts and became more excited as he thought. This way, they could quickly find the past Jie River of Constant Scarlet Jie. The report speculated the reason that Constant Scarlet Jie had disappeared was that the Jie River from it towards other Jie had broke. This had caused the appearance that Constant Scarlet Jie had disappeared. If they could find the location of the previous Jie River, and then open the Jie River. This way, the chances they could leave would increase greatly. Zuo repeatedly looked over the information to imprint it deep into his mind. Mingjuzi did not hurry him and patiently waited for Zuo to finish reading. A while later, Zuo raised his head in satisfaction. "This is your payment." Mingjuzi gathered his courage and said, "Sir Xiao Mo Ge, I hope to use the reward to exchange for a Yao art." He then added, "If you have it." Zuo paused. Mingjuzi's request was unexpected, but he still asked, "What Yao art?" "Waterwood light art." When Mingjuzi finished speaking, he looked closely at Zuo. He was extremely nervous. Waterwood light art? In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao paused upon hearing the name of the Yao art. He abruptly said to Zuo, "Ask him if he knows Ming Duan." "Do you know Ming Duan?" Zuo asked. Mingjuzi suddenly became excited. "That is my ancestor." "Does Darren know ancestor?" In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao was silent and Wei sighed. "Pu, you know?" Actually, with Pu Yao's reactions, Zuo knew that Pu Yao definitely knew Ming Duan and their relationship wasn't just a casual one. However, he was slightly puzzled. He thought of Nan Yu. Pu Yao's attitude back then had also been like this. "Tell him." Pu Yao did not reply and said, "The Yao art will be given, but he must follow you." As expected, the conditions were just the same as Nan Yu. Zuo muttered inside, but he still repeated this to Mingjuzi. Mingjuzi unhesitatingly bowed. This subordinate is willing to follow Darren. Giving the Waterwood light art to Mingjuzi, he hurriedly got him to leave. He was filled with curiosity and decided to get to the bottom of the situation. He straightforwardly asked Pu Yao, "Pu, did you know their ancestors? Why do you have their Yao arts?" After remaining silent for a while, Pu Yao finally spoke. "Their ancestors were once my subordinates." Zuo stilled. He had thought that Pu Yao had a close connection to these clans, but definitely had not thought it would be this kind of relationship. "That year in our final battle, we were trapped." Pu Yao looked into the distance, his voice reminiscent. "Everyone knew we could not escape. In order to make sure our lines of succession were not broken, we exchanged our Yao arts amongst ourselves, swore that whoever managed to survive was to pass on these Yao arts to their descendants." Zuo was silent. A moment later, he asked, "Then why do you require them to follow me? Just give it to them." "I had not thought that their clans would have declined so far." Pu Yao twisted his mouth. "Even if I give the Yao arts to them, their clans might not be able to survive on their own. Getting them to follow you is for their benefit. Your other skills might be average, but your ability to survive is top-notch. If they follow you, they can at least survive." Zuo's face instantly collapsed. "Why push your past debts onto me? You are my student. Who do I push them on to if not you?" Pu Yao's tone was righteous. He then smiled smugly. "It is fortunate that you are not inheriting from Wei. Otherwise, you would really know what trouble is. Wei said with slight helplessness, "Don't draw me into your matters." Finishing, he couldn't help but argue, "All of the gravestone armors stand by their belief and oath. This is glory and strength." Zuo and Pu Yao rolled their eyes at the same time. They didn't like Wei's conduct at all. Zuo thought of another matter. He asked Pu Yao, "Then where did you get those Xiuzhi spells?" "Spoils of victory." Pu Yao had a proud expression. "The Xiuzhi that died on my hands aren't normal ones. These spells are my collection. Aren't they good?" Zuo's eyes lit up. "How many? Give them all to me." "Why give them to you?" Pu Yao rolled his eyes. "I'm your student." Zuo's tone was righteous. Even his expression was the same as Pu Yao. Pu Yao instantly choked. However, he reacted very quickly. "It's not that I can't give them to you." "What conditions?" Zuo was very bald. "First, you are my student, but look at yourself. What you're best at is cultivating the mo physique. That is unacceptable." Pu Yao had been discontent about this for a long time. On the side, Wei's eyes flashed. He knew that Pu Yao had started his attack. No way about it. Who made it that the great day mo physique is powerful? We need to first preserve our lives first, and then we can speak of other matters. Zuo threw up his hands and said with helplessness on his face. Pu Yao was not defeated by Zuo's words. When your Yao arts advance to a level, I will give you that level spells." Zuo wasn't a softie. "Want to tempt Ji? Not that easy." He turned his face and said to Wei, "Wei, teach me mo skills." Pu Yao's expression instantly became dark. Wei did not want to provoke Pu Yao, but he didn't want to only watch as Zuo truly gave up on his mo physique. He had inspected everyone in guard camp. No person's talent could compare to Zuo. To be able to cultivate great day mo physique to this level, this was talent. The inheritance of the gravestone armor was a matter of chance. If he gave up on this opportunity, he didn't know when he would encounter another one. Also, Zuo seemed casual and offhand usually, and was never on the right path, but in reality, he had his own set of rules. He was not someone that would waver. He said with finesse, "I gave an oath to not actively pass mo skills on to you." Pu Yao instantly thought that it was not good. He knew just how clever his student was. As expected, Zuo snickered after hearing that and said, "This is easy. I know, you are not able to break your oath." "Oh, definitely won't go against your oath, there are many ways. Look, I stole and learned on my own, you didn't teach me." Wei was moved. He might hold by his oath, but he was not a pedantic person. Otherwise, he would not have disguised himself as the female to fool Pu Yao. Pu Yao's gaze instantly became extremely unfriendly, but he also had a great headache. This boy was more and more bandit-like and was becoming harder to deal with. Adding on that Wei was drooling after this boy, Pu Yao felt his mind was a mess. Just as Pu Yao was feeling a headache, an icy voice interrupted the three people that were arguing. "Xiao Mogu, you have been drafted. In 10 days, report to the main base of the Heavy Earth Corps. If you do not arrive by the deadline, you will be punished by military law." Zuo raised his head in shock. He found that at some time unknown to him, he was surrounded by 4 people with icy presences. The 4 people had faintly unfriendly expressions and tightly surrounded him. Drafted? Heavy Earth Corps? Report in 10 days? Punishment by military law? Zuo's mind blanked. What was this? Chapter 403, Collision. Do you think Xiao Mogu would accept the draft? Yu Zizhou said with bemusement. His gaze was poisonous and hateful. Probably, his best friend said without confidence. At this time, refusing the draft is punishable by military law. No matter how powerful his is, he won't dare to oppose a military corps. Yu Zizhou laughed smugly. No matter if he accepts or not, it won't be easy for him. This is an unwinnable situation. I will let him know how death is written. Your move is too poisonous. Your praise makes my heart bloom. The Heavy Earth Corps sent a draft notice for Xiao Mogu? Ji Liu was slightly astonished. Ji Qing nodded repeatedly. Yu Zizhou did it. The commander of Heavy Earth Corps is his uncle. A lot of people know this. Yu Zizhou is not a good person as expected, Ji Liu said with a cold smile. But this move is vicious. What do we do? Ji Qing was slightly excited. Xiao Moji's good days have reached an end. Us? What does this have to do with us? Ji Liu's eyes flashed. Yu Zizhou has lost his reason to his hatred. Making moves like this at this time, what would the people above think? You mean, Ji Qing made a sound? He was not dumb and understood she meant. They will fight their battles while we just sit and watch, Ji Liu said decisively. At such a sensitive time when we are losing at the front lines, there are no disadvantages to being passive. She changed the topic. I heard that Mu Shi has come back? And she's been back for a while now. Ji Qing nodded. He then reacted and said with astonishment, You think well of her? Find a time for us to visit Mu Shi. Ji Liu's eyes flashed with a different kind of light. I have a feeling that Palace Lakewood clan is going to end up with her as the main leader. That's not possible. Ji Qing's expression was disbelieving and he said unconcernedly. She's so young. Also, she didn't have any great battle achievements on her trip this time. Let's wait and see. Ji Liu giggled. Mu Shi narrated her entire journey in detail without missing any detail. The old person in front of her was the person she respected the most, and was also the leader of Palace Lakewood clan. In her eyes, he was also the wisest person. You say that the Xiozha are also investigating this matter? The clan leader said in a deep voice. Yes, Mu Shi respectfully replied. We did not detect that they were hiding near us at all. If an accident had not occurred to them, their scheme might have worked. Stars in daytime, the clan leader murmured to himself. Which Darren would it be? Mu Shi sat respectfully and did not disturb the clan leader from thinking. Truthfully, even now, she did not fully understand the significance of stars in daytime. A while later, the clan leader shook his head and refocused. Mu Shi really could not contain her curiosity anymore. Clan leader, what is stars in daytime? The clan leader explained. The so-called stars in daytime is when one uses the power of the stars to heal the wounds of the body. If it is during the day, stars would appear on the entire sky. This is stars in daytime. Only the strongest of Yaoma possess this kind of unnatural power. He then grimaced and said, This kind of skill only exists in the legends. I have not heard of anyone in the present that possesses it. Also, because the manifestation indicates he is injured, a Darren would only cast such a secret technique in the most dangerous of times. Mu Shi finally understood. No wonder. Now you know why the Council of Elders is so panicked and reacted so urgently, the clan leader said with a smile. It shows great favor that the Elder Council gave such a mission to you. They are nurturing you. Now that the front lines are successively losing, it is a rare opportunity for you young people. She calmly nodded. Sheer will definitely work hard. A flash of satisfaction flashed through the eyes of the clan leader. His expression then became stern as he said, This man, Lin Qian, you speak of is probably a Kunlun disciple, since he is able to pinpoint your origins immediately. The disciples of Kunlun are always outstanding. If you fight against them in the future, you cannot take them lightly. Yes. Mu Shi obediently replied. That calm and handsome figure appeared in her mind's eyes, and her fighting spirit rose. After returning, she had repeatedly thought back to the battle exchanges she had with Lin Qian. But even now, she could not find his weakness. She had to admit that the other's skills as a commander were higher than hers. She had the advantage of greater strength but still could not do anything to the other. If this was a mock battle in a battle general class, it would be judged as her defeat. As expected from a Kunlun disciple. No matter if it was skill or conduct, it made others respect them. She was not demotivated, but it was the opposite. The other's appearance had caused her to understand how stupid and narrow it was for her to compare herself with only those inside the Yao art house. This was her starting point. She truly understood that a vast world had appeared in front of her. Noticing the fighting spirit that rose in Mu Shi's eyes, the experienced clan leader instantly understood what Mu Shi was thinking and couldn't help but smile slightly. This matter will not end like this. Gaining the aid of a Darren that can cause the stars in daytime is worth any price. This, we understand, the Darren of the Council of Elders understand, but the Shioja also understand. The clan elder was very calm. Since all clues now point to Wukong Sword Sect, then we have a direction. Mu Shi was slightly puzzled. In her view, they should not enter into the conflict over the matter. Almost as though he saw Mu Shi's puzzlement, the clan leader said with a smile, "Our Palace Lakewood clan has some power, including influence in the territory of Shioja. However, the Council of Elders is probably also investigating in secret. Then aren't we wasting our efforts?" Mu Shi asked. It seems that we are wasting our efforts, the clan leader chuckled, and a sharp light flashed through his eyes. But what if this Darren is an elder that survived from the 1,000-year battle? Mu Shi first froze and then she unhesitatingly shook her head. That is impossible. Why is it impossible? The clan leader's eyes narrowed. I feel this is the most likely possibility. Otherwise, why did this Darren appear in the territory of Shioja? A Darren that could cause stars of daytime, it wouldn't be strange for them to have some life-saving secret technique. Also, this relates to a secret that not many people know. What secret? Mu Shi unconsciously asked. But when the words came out, she regretted it. It was almost not appropriate for her to ask this. Just as she was feeling insecure, the clan leader did not conceal and said, "In that great war, everyone knows that we Yaoma lost, but there are only a few that know some elders were captured. They were imprisoned in the Yao subduing tower. If I haven't guessed wrong, this unknown Darren most likely escaped from the Yao subduing tower." Mu Shi gaped and stared with wide eyes as she listened to the story. Seeing Mu Shi's expression, the clan leader smiled warmly. Don't find it strange. If this Darren really escaped from the Yao subduing tower, then they are definitely worth our Palace Lakewood clan investing all our power. He did not explain more. There were some things that Mu Shi would understand only when she reached a certain age. Heavy earth core? Zuoremo felt puzzled. However, when he saw the attitudes of the surrounding four people, his face instantly darkened. The draft notice has already been delivered to Sir's follower, Nan Yu. Please report to the base of heavy earth core within 10 days. One of the people stared at Zuoremo and said in a deep voice. He did not know who he had offended, but for him, this order held no influence. I have not heard of any heavy earth core and don't have any interest. Zuomo's expression was icy. Even though he did not understand why the other had come to find him, but in his view, the other's attitude was enough to indicate a problem. Surrounded by four people, he was not afraid. You wish to resist a military order? This person's expression darkened and his gaze became vicious. The other three people also had vicious glares as their bodies moved forward. A murderous energy instantly locked onto Zuoremo. Even though they had heard that Zuoremo had reconstructed the Wasteland Beast chessboard, but in the eyes of this military combat Yao, that wasn't anything. Those genius that boasted so much were like bubbles that popped on impact, once they were placed on the battlefield. The leading combat Yao smirked. His gaze when he looked at Zuoremo was like he was looking at a lamb waiting for slaughter. He did not object to giving the other a lesson in the 10-finger prison. Which one of those proud young masters didn't obey under his hands? Zuomo's eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed through them. His upper body waved lightly like that of a clock pendulum. The pupils of the leading combat Yao suddenly shrank. In his field of vision, the Zuoremo seemed to disappear. What shocked him even more was the other's decisiveness. Attacking proactively without a word. He was both shocked and angry. He bellowed, "You dare?" The movement of his hands were even faster than his angry shout. After long years of training, it was instinct to react once encountering danger. A ball of dirt yellow light lit up in his hand and a shell of dirt yellow light appeared around him. This was one of the most widely used military intermediate Yao arts of the heavy earth core, earth defense art. Proven through combat, it had outstanding defensive capabilities. Being able to enter the third prison, his power was not weak. As one of the top combat Yao in the military corps, he had absolute confidence in his power. Even more, he also had 3 powerful fellows with him. 4 against 1, it made him feel as though he was using a sword to kill a chicken. Ping! A clear shattering sound caused his bellow to suddenly stop. A golden fist rapidly grew larger in his eyes. How was this possible? His expression froze. The earth defense art that he had always relied on was so easily broken by the other? A military intermediate Yao art at his full power. Was this smashed to bits by one punch? Time seemed to suddenly slow at this moment. The other's fist grew larger and large in his eyes. Everything was so clear. He was even able to see the complex patterns that densely covered the golden armor on the other's fist. The terror was like a ferocious beast that escaped and rampaged in his body. Chapter 404. Kills where Mo caught the terror in the eyes of this heavy Earth Corps military official. His heart did not waver at all. He was completely ignorant of the strong mental blow his conduct had given this military official. Attacking without any hesitation, so decisive and sharp it was shocking, a gaze that was indifferent, all of this screamed that, although this guy seemed young, he was definitely an experienced fighter. This combat Yao suddenly realized that this youth was completely different than what he had imagined. At this time, he did not have the time to consider this. The fist that carried the aura of death had reached him. Even though he knew this was the 10-finger prison, where there wasn't true death, his heart still shuddered, uncontrollably shuddered. His eyes were wide. As a professional combat Yao, even if his heart was terror-stricken, his training caused his body to still react instinctively. His body suddenly retreated, both of his hands crossing in front of his chest. A bellow that shook him to his core had vented all the terror inside. Earth Shield. A low-level Yao art that completely displayed this military official's combat instincts. A low-level Yao art, a Yao art that he could cast the fastest, was the only thing that could help him grasp the chance to survive in such a dangerous situation. The full-powered Earth Shield had a surface as smooth as a mirror. The color was deep brown and gave people the feeling of being as hard as metal. Zhuamo's fist opened and he lightly pressed his palm onto the Earth Shield. The force caused by momentum suddenly changing to nimbleness was such a conflicting feeling that this combat Yao almost spat blood. However, when he saw the golden script that lit up on Zhuamo's palm, his expression changed. ZZT. Like poking through thin paper, the Earth Shield was like papier-mâché. That terrifying palm did not encounter any resistance, penetrating the Earth Shield and pressing against his body. Day script palm. Abundant power came from this palm. He opened his mouth, wanting to warn his fellows, but he could not make a sound. He turned to a dash of white light and disappeared. This exchange was so rapid that the remaining three only seemed to wake up when that combat Yao turned to a ball of light. Their expressions changed, but they could not find Zhuamo's figure at all. One person's expression suddenly changed as he shouted, "Careful!" Pew! A strangely shaped straight sword entered the back of a combat Yao and exited through his chest. Another white light. The white light illuminated the shocked face of the third combat Yao. In his eyes, a golden figure rapidly magnified. An enormous pain came, and he turned to a streak of white light. The last combat Yao knew that he was definitely unable to escape. He suddenly howled. Strong yellow light flooded out of his body, and a fierce presence suddenly rose. Yellow sky, heavy earth. That was the trump card of the heavy Earth Corps' intermediate Yao arts because its power was closely comparable to high-level Yao arts. With a special method, it would gather all spiritual power one had in an instant and then explode. A suicide attack, dying together with the enemy. This move's spiritual power manipulation was not hard, but there were few people who could use it. That was because the caster, other than knowing how to use it, had to have the determination to die. The combat Yao showed a vicious smile that was twisted under the thick yellow light. He leapt towards Zhuamo. He was fast. His figure disappeared from his position. Pew pew. Zhuamo did not move, and only stared coldly at the other. In midair, the combat Yao looked in shock at his broken legs. He stared until the white light drowned the image of Xiao Emogu in his vision, the figure that was icily staring at him. How is this possible? At the same time he turned to a ball of white light, a blade of ice appeared with a crisp sound in the air that had been empty before and shattered into pieces. Ice blade illusory formation. Zhuemo had set up a simple ice blade illusory formation around this combat Yao, back when he had summoned the noon blade. He only had to wait for the other to fall into his trap. There weren't as many Yao in the third prison as there were at the Wasteland Beast chessboard, but there were still many Yao that saw this fight. Every spectator had shocked expressions, and the sound of inhales came in waves. What happened before them surpassed their imaginations. The result of the fight surpassed their imaginations, and the process of the fight had also surpassed their imaginations. 4 trained combat Yao were killed by Xiao Emogu in one exchange each, and not one was able to threaten Xiao Emogu at all. The death of the last combat Yao had left the strongest impression. The thick earthy yellow light, the shocking presence, everyone could tell that this was a powerful Yao art that could rival high-level Yao arts. But the result was completely unexpected. A low-level ice blade illusory formation had caused this powerful Yao art and figure to crumble. This result seemed too ridiculous and could even be considered fantastical. After watching the battle and the shock subsided, it caused many spectators to think. Those that could enter the third prison were not weak, and each had above-average combat experience. Their combat experience told them if what happened in front of them occurred outside the 10-finger prison, the result would likely have been the same. A terrifying guy. A thread of warmth gradually rose in Zhuemo's icy eyes. He had exited his fighting mode. The exclamations and inhales of the spectators did not affect him at all. For him, this was just a fight that had nothing that was worthy of shock. However, when he thought of the words the combat Yao had said at the start, his brow couldn't help but furrow. He could disregard the other's undisguised threat, but Nan Yu and the others might be affected. This was slightly difficult. Zhuemo muttered inside. When Zhuemo got to the Wasteland Beast chessboard, he quickly found Nan Yu because Nan Yu was waiting for him. Before encountering Zhuemo, Nan Yu was a normal little Yao. Right now, she was cultivating the high-level Yao art, South Sky Arrow art, but her vision and knowledge had not changed at their core. She was filled with worry when facing the power and authority of Heavy Earth Core. As a true Yao, she could understand the meaning of this draft notice better than Zhuemo, especially at such a sensitive time with the Yao's repeated defeats at the front line. Seeing Zhuemo, she was overjoyed. Darren. For an unknown reason, when she saw Darren, his peaceful face, his indifferent yet confident eyes, her restless heart quickly settled. Darren would definitely have a way. This thought unconsciously flashed through her mind but quickly took over it. You received the Heavy Earth Core draft notice? Zhuemo did not waste words and asked Nanyu. Yes, Darren. Nanyu replied. At the same time, she cast a recording Yao art with her hand. She had recorded the contents of the draft notice inside. Since Darren already knew, then he definitely had a solution. She thought inside. Zhuemo scanned it and understood. After thinking, he asked Nanyu, if I do not want to accept the draft notice, is there any way? Darren, there is no solution. A voice came from behind him. It was Tsong Lin that had coincidentally came as well. His expression was also filled with worry. Beside him was Tsong Zhe. Seeing Zhuemo's eyes turn to him, Tsong Lin grimaced and said, Darren, the Heavy Earth Core has sent the draft notice. If you disobey, they have the power to execute you. Is there no way at all? Zhuemo's brow creased. Unless the military upper levels or the Council of Elder resolve this situation. Only the Council of Elders have the power to change this draft order. Tsong Lin's voice was bitter. The Heavy Earth Core is a regular core belonging directly to the military. The military high command has the right to interfere. The same can be said for the Council of Elders. They have the right to any affair. Which of you have a connection? Zhuemo asked. The three shook their heads simultaneously. Zhuemo saw this and understood. The Wisteria clan of the South Sky and the Grey clan had been in decline for too long. They were very far from the centers of power. Darren, maybe I have a solution. Ming Juzi, who had rushed over to them, had managed to hear this. Zhuemo had let him leave, but he had not gone far. He had coincidentally heard some people passing by him discussing the conflict between Xiao Emogu and the heavy earth core. He had hurriedly ran over to search for Zuemo. After Zuemo introduced Mingju Zi as his new follower, everyone instantly felt closer. Darren, this was definitely done by Yu Zizhou. Mingju Zi only had to think to understand what had gone on. Yu Zizhou? Who is that? Zuemo's face was puzzled. Seeing the puzzlement on Darren's face, Mingju Zi couldn't laugh or cry. He could only explain, Darren, do you remember the battle when you defeated 26 Yao? Yu Zizhou was the second one. Oh, him. Zuemo had a small impression. However, the one that gave him the deepest impression was the masked expert from the Blue Flower family. The military commander of Heavy Earth Corps is Yu Zizhou's uncle. Having spent a long time among experts, Mingju Zi was familiar with this kind of information. Yu Zizhou has worked very hard to pursue Ji Liu. He probably was thinking of Ji Liu when he challenged Darren, but he lost great face when he was defeated by Darren. I heard that Yu Zizhou was a very small-hearted person. Didn't think it was really so. Mingju Zi felt great disdain at Yu Zizhou's conduct. It really is despicable that Yu Zizhou is using such tricks, methods that should not be seen by the public at such a sensitive time. Listening to Mingju Zi speak of the cause and effect, Zuemo and the others finally understood. What solution do you have? Zuemo asked. It might not succeed, Mingju Zi said in a heavy voice, but it is worth a try. We need to make a big fuss. Big fuss? Zuemo asked. Yes. Only when it is a big fuss will they not dare to do whatever they want, Mingju Zi said. However, this will only make them cautious. In terms of law, they have the power to draft Darren. And then, Zuemo heard that Mingju Zi had following plans. They will definitely persist in the drafting you, and this would deepen the upper level's dislike of them. We only need to show slight weakness and capture the sympathy of the upper levels, Mingju Zi said calmly. With the potential that Darren has shown, adding to our manufactured noise, there is a high possibility that we can get the upper levels to interfere. Nan Yu and the others lit up. This was a very outstanding plan. Even Zuemo couldn't help but nod inside. Mingju Zi's plan was very plausible. But, maybe, an even crazier plan gradually formed in his mind. Chapter 405, Yu Heng. The heavy earth core draft of Xiao Emogu is filled with the stench of scheming and trickery. As everyone knows, Yu Zizhou's uncle Yu Heng is the military commander of Heavy Earth Corps. One does not need an outstanding imagination to easily smell the fishiness here. Xiao Emoji's strength is undoubted. Even when surrounded by 4 combat Yao, he could easily defeat the other. It is not hard to accept such an accomplished youth giving his aid for this great war. However, we are suspicious. What would such an accomplished youth face if he enters the Heavy Earth Corps? Becoming cannon fodder is the most likely result. The draft notice by the Heavy Earth Corps is completely without precedent. This is a very bad beginning. We do not need to say more of what has occurred between Xiao Emogen and Yu Zizhou. If a certain youth of great potential appears in the future and is conscripted by the draft call, how is this different than being bandits? Or is it to say, if one does not have a background with no protection from a Yao art house, then they are unable to even protect their own freedom? Yu Heng felt terrible inside and out. He looked darkly at his vice commander. The sharp gaze of the corps commander made the vice commander feel as though there was a blade at his back. Cold sweat poured down. Speak, what happened? Yu Heng's voice seemed to come between his teeth with dark coldness. The vice commander knew that Darren was infuriated. He hadn't expected that the matter would develop so poorly. He said weakly, A few days ago, young master said he needed a draft notice. So you gave it to him? Yu Heng's facial skin shook as his eagle-like eyes stared at the vice commander. The vice commander finally lost control of his terror. He knew that Darren was truly angry. His face suddenly became pale and he stammered, This subordinate, trash. Face black, Yu Heng's right hand suddenly grabbed at the air. Like an exploding watermelon, the vice commander was crushed and his limbs were sent flying. A while later, his anger finally subsided slightly. His dark gaze stared at the floor covered in limbs and flesh. He sank into deep thought. He usually favored his nephew and had high hopes for him. He hadn't expected his nephew to be so stupid. To do such a thing at such a sensitive time, and for someone to have gotten a hold of it and broadcasted it far and wide. The entire heavy Earth core was now in an extremely reactive situation. He was deeply disappointed in Yu Zizhou. He knew that Yu Zizhou had been pursuing Ji Liu. He had also supported it, but he hadn't thought that Yu Zizhou would be so small-minded. To do such a stupid thing for intangible gains. Those Yao channels were continuously discussing and repeating this matter these days. Thinking about this, murderous intent rose. Those Yao channels should all die. But the one who should die the most was that Xiao Mogu. Yu Heng was cunning. The situation was becoming fiercer over time, like oil being poured onto a fire. He could see with a glance that someone was stirring up trouble from the shadows. But who was it? To make trouble for him at this time? His gaze flashing, he calmed down. Several names came to mind. These people might not be the mastermind, but they would not refuse the chance to add stones when he was drowning. It is not so easy to see my humiliation. Yu Heng recovered his calm. The harsh scent of blood in the room caused his to wrinkle his brow in discontent. He shouted towards outside the door, "Come! Darren!" A guard came in. When he saw the ground meat on the ground, his expression couldn't help but change. Yu Heng said indifferent as though nothing had happened. "Clean this up." "Yes." Swept by the corps commander's gaze, the guard's scalp tingled and coldness shot up from his feet. Yu Heng walked out of the room without turning, looking back. Yu Zizhou's limbs were cold. He had never expected the matter would transform into this. A person that was akin to an ant, no matter how outstanding his talent was, what was the use? In this era, if a person did not have a background or support, wasn't he a lamb that would be slaughtered? The gazes that had once been admiring and respectful in the past had all changed. Instead, they were gazes of disdain, scorn. No one was willing to come close to him. Even the teachers of the Yao art house shook their heads when they saw him, as though they were pitying him and sighing. Why was it like this? He balled his hands into fists so tightly his fingers went white. He was furious and seethed with hatred. That one Xiao Mogu. Just a Xiao Mogu. Just that one was enough to make him an outcast? Were these people all blind? He suddenly saw his best friend walking towards his direction. He seemed to have found someone to talk to and instinctively walked towards his best friend. But his best friend's expression changed when he made eye contact. He pretended not to see Yu Zizhou and walked towards another direction. Yu Zizhou's feet were nailed to the ground. He looked dazedly at the disappearing figure of his best friend. Yu Heng stood with a warm smile in front of the reporters. "I had not expected that our drafting of Xiao Mogu would be of concern to the public. Truthfully, this was unexpected to me. I have also heard what everyone has speculated about this matter, so today, I have come to make some clarifications." All the reporters opened their ears. Many people think that this matter was caused by my nephew, Zizhou, scheming in the shadows in order to take revenge on Xiao Mogu. "Kiki, Zizhou is my nephew, I have great affection for him, I do not refute any of this. There is one point about this matter that everyone has correctly guessed. I learned about Xiao Mogu from my nephew." Whoosh, the reporters all rumbled. They hadn't thought that Yu Heng would not refuse to admit it. He really was too arrogant. Many people showed furious expressions. Yu Heng's hands made a motion to calm the press down. His presence as the military commander of a corps instinctively came out. The reporters that had become restless started to calm down. In contrast to everyone's malicious speculations, my nephew admires Xiao Mogu very much. Due to this, he had done his best to recommend Xiao Mogu to me. It definitely was not done out of maliciousness. The people below all had disbelieving looks. There were even those that laughed. Yu Heng seemed to not have heard it. His expression became grave as he said, "Truthfully, as a soldier, no matter if it is me or our heavy earth core, we have prepared to sacrifice ourselves at such a dangerous time. I will say this now. I hope the Council of Elders will consider our heavy Earth core first. We have already finished preparing to go to the front lines. All of the reporters were stunned by Corps Commander Yu Heng's request. The losses at the front lines had greatly impacted morale. Some corps even started to fear combat. Now, Corps Commander Yu Heng was publicly requesting to go to war. The impassioned words instantly ignited everyone. The clapping was like thunder. Yu Heng did not show joy and said in a heavy voice, "Life and death is not the most important in my eyes, but if defeat is caused due to the lack of strength, then we have to bear the blame. Everyone might feel we are domineering, that we have other intentions, but you do not know how desperate and desirous we are of talent. Why are we so desperate? Why so desirous? Because we know how heavy the responsibilities placed on our shoulders are. Because we know we cannot disappoint everyone's hopes." Clap, clap, clap. The reporters below were excited, their faces completely red. A dignified expression came onto Corps Commander Yu Heng's face as he slowly said, "Mr. Xiao Emogu, we will wait for you with the position of an officer. Please give your strength to help my heavy Earth core." The entire room was silent. All the reports were shocked by these words. Such skill. Ming Juzi's face was pale as he murmured. All of his scheming and moves turned to dust in front of Yu Heng's performance. In front of Corps Commander Yu Heng's experience, Ming Juzi felt just how poor his performance had been. What made him feel even more hopeless was that his plan had actually set the stage to help Corps Commander Yu Heng. Nan Yu and the others also had white faces. In one night, public opinion had turned against them. Everyone praised Corps Commander Yu Heng and started to support this drafting of Xiao Emogu. There were people that continuously came out to call Xiao Emogu in hopes he would accept the draft notice. He was offered an officer position, suggesting how sincere Corps Commander Yu Heng was. Those people that assumed that Corps Commander Yu Heng was planning on making Xiao Emogu cannon fodder, but open your eyes and look. The position of officer's lowest requirement was to be a silver battle general. It was definitely an important position in the Corps. If Xiao Emogu still refused the draft call in this situation, that would be unacceptable. Zhou Emo was also full of admiration. It had to be said that Yu Heng's move was beautiful. Ming Juzi had not expected it, he had not expected it, and the cunning Pu Yao had also not expected it. Looking at the pale Ming Juzi and others, he smiled. He knew what Nan Yu and the others were worried about. The present situation for Xiao Emogu was akin to riding a tiger and being unable to get off. If he still refused the draft notice, Xiao Emogu's popularity would plummet and his reputation would be stained. But that was for Xiao Emogu. To Zhou Emo, who was only able to appear in the Ten-Finger Prison, was there a real consequence? His reputation in the Yao world? What was that? Previously, he had been worried about the safety of Nan Yu and the others. Now, this had been solved. With the matter the subject of so much attention, the Heavy Earth Corps would not dare to seek revenge against Nan Yu and the others. Regardless of whether Zhou Emo accepted the draft notice or not, they had no reason to make trouble for Nan Yu and the others. This also caused the crazy plan that Zhou Emo had originally prepared to not have a place to be used. In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao's face was dark. His narrow bloody pupil was like a blade flashing with an alarming light. He said coldly, "Good move. Such a good move. Tiske, there is someone this interesting." The usually warm and humble way also showed dislike. We cannot let him off so easily. Putting down his worries about Nan Yu and the others, Zhou Mo's gaze turned towards the impassioned Yu Heng in the Yao channel. He felt like he had swallowed a fly. Of course we can't let this guy go. Zhou Mo narrowed his eyes that flashed viciously. The three miraculously had a consensus of opinion. Let's get him. Chapter 406. Let's have a fight. Yu Heng is really an old fox, Ji Liu praised. Yes. I didn't think that this guy was so cunning. Ji Qing still didn't believe it, and it was hard to blame him. Before this, he wouldn't even look at the corps commander of a regular corps. In the eyes of these large clans, the subordinate corps of the Council of Elders were the true elite. The regular corps were stronger than local corps, but their prestige and reputation was low. But this time, He had been convinced that the regular corps also had powerful people. Do not underestimate others. Ji Liu rolled her eyes. Yu Heng is a golden battle general in the end, so how could he be weak? But comparing the actors of this scene, Yu Zizhou is really lacking. There isn't anyone good in this generation of the Jade family. TSK, it seems that Yu Zizhou is completely out of the game. This kind of trash, old sis will definitely look down on, Ji Cheng said as he shook his head. Ji Liu said unconcernedly, I didn't have much interest in him to start with. If it wasn't for fact he is from the Jade family, I wouldn't have even bothered with him. I don't know who will become my brother-in-law, Ji Cheng muttered. Then he seemed to think of something. But seeing Xiao Emogu losing, old sis probably feels very good. Slightly good. Ji Liu's brows relaxed, but then quickly creased again as she said, however, I feel that Xiao Emogu wouldn't lie down so easily. In front of Yu Heng the old fox, he definitely has no chance of making a comeback, Ji Cheng said confidently. That is not so certain. Ji Liu unconsciously wanted to say this, but when the words reached her mouth, she finally reacted and swallowed them back down. That figure floated in her mind. She had a strong feeling this guy wouldn't give up here. Fleeing without fighting definitely was not this guy's style. What? You aren't going to help that little guy who you were interested in? The fire-faced person said curiously. This guy's situation isn't good right now. I'm not so idle as to make time for such things, Tianlu said disgruntledly. Weren't you very interested in him all this time? Didn't you praise him for his outstanding talent and limitless potential? The fire-faced person asked with shock. You who dislikes salt does not need to worry about those of us who like salted carrots. Qianlu was so lazy he didn't even open his eyes. The fire-faced person was enraged. I hate eating carrots. His tone suddenly changed. You really aren't worried? Facing the fire-faced person's nagging, Qianlu was helpless. He could only raise his face. In any case, it is just losing some popularity. So what? He won't lose his life. Oh, that's right. The fire-faced person reacted. Also, that boy isn't one take an attack like that lying down. So, you are actually interested in the boy. Yu Heng's move caused both he and the Heavy Earth Corps to become famous. No matter if it was the normal citizens that were truly fooled by him, or his opponents that knew him, they were filled with praise. Morale at the Heavy Earth Corps increased. Everyone raised their heads and puffed their chests. They were mentally satisfied and full of reverence when they looked at the Corps commander. Yu Heng was very proud. The effect that the plan he had twisted his mind for had far surpassed his expectations. He had not been criticized for this matter. It was the opposite. Instead, the military command had given him rewards for this. It had to be said that the geniuses of the Yao art houses did not like to take positions in the military unless it was the corps that were directly subordinate to the Council of Elders. These were the positions that were attractive to them. The military command had always felt great pain about this but never had a solution. The draft call of the Heavy Metal Corps caused their eyes to light up. Even more importantly, Yu Heng had made this matter beautiful. It hadn't caused trouble for them, but made the military seem more upright. Even more, at this time when they were losing on the front lines, the words of the Corps commander Yu Heng said had caused the low morale of the soldiers to greatly increase. Yu Heng's days became even better. As to whether or not Xiao Emogu would come, he was not concerned. After the storm this time, his reputation had shot up. Some citizens had put his name forward for the position of the first Corps commander of the regular Corps. No matter if Xiao Emogu came or not, he had benefited. As for actually being sent to the front lines, he was not afraid. His position as Corps commander had been earned by rising up through the ranks. It really was profit without any costs. He smugly watched the Yao channels. In the past, he did not like these things that were full of wasted words, but he liked them very much now. Listening to the reporters repeatedly praising him, that made him feel better than anything else. Yu Heng recognized the report in the Yao channel. Yesterday, it had been him that had praised Yu Heng greatly, the tiger of the regular Corps commanders, a true warrior, the bravest of the generation. Yu Heng almost felt embarrassed from hearing the praises. How would this guy compliment him today? Yu Heng relaxed his body and laid halfway down as he thought and ate fruit. In this period of time, the matter of the drafts has really been turbulent and caused a great and unprecedented discussion. Every side has been continuously speaking of their position. The words of Corps Commander Yu Heng have showed us the sincerity of the Heavy Earth Corps. However, from beginning to end, we have missed the voice of one of the most important participants, Xiao Emoge. From the start, Xiao Emoge has not showed himself, and has not ever given his opinion on this matter. What we are able to see is only Xiao Emoge won on 4 battle and him defeating 4 Heavy Earth Corps combat Yao in the recording Yao arts. But today, Xiao Emoge has finally made a statement. Yu Heng was unconcerned. No matter if it was emotionally or rationally, he had the advantage. No matter what Xiao Emoge said, he could not win. In the Yao channel, Xiao Emoge's expression was cold. It was the first time Yu Heng saw Xiao Emoge's appearance. He paused slightly so young and then relaxed. His eyes were filled with amusement. What tricks would the other play? I still refuse the draft call of the Heavy Earth Corps. The reporter hurriedly asked, why? Do you not want to give your aid for this great war? No. Xiao Emoge shook his head. Then why? The reporter pressed. Xiao Emoge showed an expression of struggle. Seeing the direction the interview was going, the reporter had a sense of urgency inside. On the outside, he had to act as a friendly guide. If you have any difficulties, please tell everyone. I believe everyone will understand. Xiao Emoge still shook his head. Is it because of cultivation? You are at an important time in your cultivation? The reporter used his imagination. No. Xiao Emoge shook his head. Is it because of some predicament that cannot be altered? The reporter gritted his teeth and asked. No. Xiao Emoge shook his head. Then why? The report was going to go crazy. Hesitating once again, Xiao Emoge asked uncertainly, do I really have to say it? I'm begging you, please say it. The reporter wanted to cry. But saying it, I feel it wouldn't be good, Xiao Emoge slowly said. The reporter had tears on his face. At this time, every Yao that was watching was crying. Yu Heng snorted and smirked. This guy was good at pretending to be mysterious, but his moves really sucked. No matter the reason, please say it, the reporter said with the last of his energy. Then I'll say it. Xiao Emoge looked innocently at the reporter. Please say, the reporter panted and nodded. Xiao Emoge suddenly paused. He retracted his playful expression and became grave. All the Yao that were watching this unconsciously held their breath. Every Yao had the same feeling that Xiao Emoge's following words were definitely very important. Because Xiao Emoge, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened them with a sharp gaze, because they are too weak. Too weak. Intimidated by Xiao Emoge's presence, the reporter instinctively asked. It was 4 against 1, a fight with an inexperienced youth like me, who has never stepped on the battlefield, yet they were defeated in 1 round. Is this the strength of our regular corps? There was indifference in his tone, recounting the event without emotion, yet he was able to convey his deep disappointment. I am very disappointed. This is our Heavy Earth Corps. This is the Heavy Earth Corps that we have hoped would be able to protect us? This is the Heavy Earth Corps that we are hoping can win this great war? The reporter was completely stunned. Yu Heng was stunned. All the Yao that were watching the Yao channel were stunned. In their ears, there was only Xiao Emoge's icy voice echoing. So I refuse. I have never thought that a regular corps would be this weak. 4 against 1, but where was your teamwork? Where was the basic strategy that combat Yao should have? Where was it? I believe that there are many who have seen the recording Yao art. Can you find even the slightest trace of these things from there? And this is our regular corps? Xiao Emoge shook his head, his expression serious, as he seemed to talk to himself. A corps that is in such decline saying they want to draft me, should I feel proud? I feel embarrassed. This is an embarrassment. Even though I have never joined the army before, in my mind, the army was powerful, so powerful it required our reverence. A qualified combat Yao may not match an expert in a one-on-one battle, but when it is 4-on-1, Such a poor performance cannot be forgiven. Among the silence, Zhuo Mo's voice was clear. My personal experiences fill me with bewilderment. The so-called corps commander of this kind of corps, is he really a qualified battle general? In front of the Yao channel, Yu Heng was so angry his face was white. His breath was stuck at his chest, unable to go up or down. Maybe a 4-on-1 battle cannot reveal the problem. Then, in the Yao channel, Xiao Emogu that had thrown out such shocking words suddenly raised his head. He raised his right arm, his finger pointing straight as though Yu Heng was right in front of him. Let's have a fight. Gold General Corps Commander Yu Heng. The clear voice and the domineering presence were imprinted in the minds of countless people alongside the figure of the youth giving a battle challenge with his arm. Chapter 407, Acceptance of Battle Invitation. He dares. He dares. Trash. Trash. Kill you. Kill you. The guard heard the shouts of the corps commander inside the room, and what followed immediately after was the sound of something crashing against the ground. His head shrank back. Thinking about the flesh and gore scattered around the room last time, his heart tightened. Darren was really frightening when angry. He was also slightly puzzled. Who had caused Darren to be so furious? These days, all of the Heavy Earth Corps had been immersed in joy. Who wasn't speaking positively of the Heavy Earth Corps? Everyone felt there was a shine to their faces. Supposedly, the military high command would visit the Corps in a few days. Which unperceptive person was seeking death? The guard cursed inside, but before he could think it through, a figure came out of the room. It was Darren. He jumped and hurriedly bowed. However, Darren's face was dark and did not raise his head. Whoa, something major probably happened? This guy, Ji Cheng's expression was frozen. A moment later, his soul came back and he stammered, is he crazy? Too domineering. Too arrogant? Ji Liu did not seem to hear it. She looked dazedly at the youth inside the Yao channel that was pointing at her. The youth on the Yao channel had a gaze like a sword that did not retreat. That straight finger was the declaration of war. Too crazy. Ji Cheng shook his head and murmured as though he wanted to make himself believe it. He did not even know what he was saying. Too exhilarating. A long while later, the soulless Ji Cheng and the dazedly Ji Liu resumed normality. But the two sank into silence. They did not know what to say, and did not know what language to use to describe their mood at the moment. A youth that was not yet 20 had publicly challenged the commander of a corps. Such an insane event had never happened before in history, but it really happened in front of them. They had seen the entire process with their own eyes. Old sis, do you think Yu Heng will accept? Ji Cheng suddenly asked Ji Liu. Ji Liu unconsciously bit her lips. Definitely. Yes. Ji Cheng's tone was very complex. Yu Heng will definitely accept. Xiao Emogu definitely would have predicted that Yu Heng will accept. It really is crazy. He repeatedly said, crazy, as though this would be able to truly express his present emotions. We all underestimated him. Ji Liu's gaze became clear again. Her usual intelligence also returned. She was very calm. Xiao Emogu dares to give this sort of challenge means that he has something he can rely on. Ji Cheng nodded repeatedly. If he had some underestimation and scorn for Xiao Emogu before, then he was an admirer of Xiao Emogu now. Such a domineering and arrogant challenge, it was so exciting just thinking about it. He wouldn't even dare to think about it, much less do it. No matter if Xiao Emogu won or lost, Ji Cheng was completely subdued by the other's bravery and domineering. Without realizing it, Xiao Emogu had become Ji Cheng's idol. Even Ji Cheng did not realize this. He asked urgently, is Xiao Emogu able to defeat Yu Heng? No matter how powerful Xiao Emogu is, if it is a duel, he definitely is not Yu Heng's match. However, Ji Liu's eyes flashed, they probably will compete in more chess. What Xiao Emogu disparaged was Yu Heng's skill as a battle general. If Yu Heng wants to wash this shame away, he must respond in this area. The only thing that can realize the two of them fighting is naturally war chess. Is Xiao Emogu also a powerful battle general? Ji Cheng's mouth was wide, his face disbelieving. Most likely, Ji Liu said to herself, since he dares to make the challenge, then he definitely would have some chance of victory. Yu Heng is a gold battle general. To have a chance of victory, he can only be a gold battle general. Ji Cheng exclaimed. He felt his brain wasn't enough to use killing 26 in a row, reconstructing a prison. All of this showed Xiao Emoji's powerful individual strength. With Xiao Emoji's age, it was enough to shock Ji Cheng. Now his old sis was telling him that Xiao Emogu was also a golden battle general. It was too crazy, too crazy. Impossible, impossible. Ji Cheng unconsciously murmured. He felt his brain was short-circuiting. How was it possible? It was absurd. A guy of the same age as him that not only possessed great individual power, but was also a golden battle general. Was the world crazy? Had golden battle generals become lettuce selling on the market? His mind was ringing. But old sis tone was so confident that he believed it. Every time old sis used this tone to give her arrive at a conclusion, then the result of this matter basically would not change too much. From young until now, it had always been so. How was it possible? Ji Cheng suddenly felt a deep blow. His heart felt bitter. Compared to Xiao Emogu, he felt he was like a pig. The difference between them was so great that he could not gather the courage to compare the two of them. Ji Liu noticed her younger brother's expression. She paused slightly and then understood. She lightly said, I feel that many people were wrong from the start. Wrong about what? Ji Cheng's face was puzzled. Xiao Emoji's identity is still a riddle. Many people assume that he is from a poor background and has no foundation. Ji Liu shook her head and said, looking at it now, this speculation is absurdly incorrect. Xiao Emogu isn't from a poor background and his origins are definitely not simple. He may even have a very important background. Why? Ji Cheng had not refused from his shock. It is possible to be from a poor background and still have powerful Yao arts, but if he is a powerful battle general, how can he of humble birth? Xiao Emogu either is from a prestigious family background, or he has a famed teacher. Ji Liu explained. Right. Ji Cheng realized. The other's birth might be even higher than our Ji family, and have a deeper history. Ji Liu said. Ji Cheng's gray face finally recovered some blood. Thinking about it this way, he felt much better. I really anticipate this. How was it? Was my performance not bad? Zuoremo smugly asked Wei. Wei smiled slightly. Very good. Zuoremo wouldn't be fooled by Wei's humble and gentle appearance anymore. In front of the cunning and sly Pu Yao, Wei was definitely playing Mr. Good. Wei was one that was persistent in his beliefs. However, Zuoremo discovered through this matter that of the three of them, this guy had the highest skill at fooling people. Full of righteousness, a good appearance. Even if he was making a great lie, Wei's eyes would still be filled with sincerity. Zuoremo was suspicious that this guy was practiced in doing things in the shadows, while showing a pious face. This guy was a charlatan. But it had to be said that after Wei's teachings, Zuoremo's performance could be said to be perfect. What should we do now? Zuoremo asked Pu Yao curiously. Do I really have to fight him? No need, no need. Pu Yao showed a very proud smile, and then smiled mysteriously. You will know soon. The matter of Xiao Emogu publicly challenging Yu Heng became an even hotter topic. The recording Yao art of his 1-against-4 battle was spread far. After seeing the entire battle, many people couldn't help but agree with Xiao Emoji's words. It was true. From the recording Yao art, the performances of the 4 combat Yao were not worthy of praise. Yu Heng's impassioned performance changed meaning in front of this recording Yao art. The rumors about the heavy earth core in the cities became even more rampant. The heavy earth core were rotten from the core. There were secrets about the identity of Commander Yu Heng's gold battle general status. Yu Heng deeply experienced what it felt like to fall from the heavens into the pits of hell. The military command that had been praising him previously changed their attitudes and their tone became stern. This time, they had come out and scolded him. They were all straightforward and old generals. These old generals did not care about showing off. However, The level of the military decreasing and the loss of combat capabilities were subjects of their deep hatred. Even more, the front lines had just experienced losses. Some people even speculated the reason that Fierce Fire Corps and Ice Frost Corps were exterminated were because they were like the Heavy Earth Corps, rotten, in decline, and unable to stand up in a fight. The pressure on Yu Heng shot up. His face was dark every day. He threw his nephew Yu Zizhou far away. The mood in Heavy Earth Corps was very low. The experienced Yu Heng knew that if the other dared to challenge him like this, then they had tricks to follow up with. He could see it clearly. No matter if he won or lost, there was no benefit to him. If he won, the opponent was a youth and the victory was not honorable, it was expected and nothing to boast about. But if he lost, he didn't dare think of this result. Such poisonous schemes. Yu Heng's face was black. A while later he raised his head. His eyes were murderous. He squeezed the words through his teeth, "Accept the battle." The second day, an enormous war chess was being set up on the Wasteland Beast chessboard. All of the topography of this war chess was personally designed by famed war chess master He Yong. To set up this match, the famed Water Caltrip Yao Art House had sent large numbers of teachers that spent 3 whole days constructing it. This was a war chess match that was unprecedented. Gong Sun Cha swallowed a fiend soul beast bead and channeled his core scripture. He continuously absorbed soul base source from the fiend soul beast bead. By now, his core scripture was in its beginning form and its power had started to show, especially when he was giving commands. He didn't need to rely on even one talisman to be able to pass his orders to every soldier. His core scripture flowed. His mind was able to maintain clarity from beginning to end. For a battle general, that was more important than anything. His sudden increase in skill did not cause any joy to appear on his face. Thinking about his defeat last time, there seemed to be a fire burning inside. He planned on challenge that old guy today. This time, he had to defeat the other. Entering war chess like usual, he sent a challenge to the other without fear. Previously, whenever he sent out the challenge, the other would unhesitatingly start a match. But the chess match did not start today. Gong Sun Cha frowned. The little miss in times of battle was a completely different person than usual. At this moment, a dark voice sounded next to his ear. "There's a new match. Do you dare to come?" "New chess match? Who cares if it is a new chess match opponent or an old one? I will defeat all of them." Full of motivation, Gong Sun Cha was ignited by these light words. "Come." Chapter 408, The Choices of a Beginner? Gong Sun Shidi? Zhuo Mo had an expression of realization. So it was not Pu Yao that was going to battle. Then he felt puzzled. "What trick did you use to pull Gong Sun Shidi in?" He. Pu Yao was very proud. "It took a lot of effort. But luckily, his consciousness is stronger than yours, so there are ways." Zhuo Mo became slightly embarrassed and was shocked at the revelation. Gong Sun Shidi's consciousness is stronger than mine? Now you know the difference. You learn everything, know a little of everything, but have mastered none. Pu Yao had been unsatisfied with Zhuo Mo for this for a long time. He naturally would not let go of the chance to attack him. This way is good as long as I can survive. If I can survive and can earn Jingshi. Zhuo Mo's expression was unconcerned and this infuriated Pu Yao, causing him to roll his eyes. Wei, on the other hand, sat in a dignified manner on the side, with the trademark righteous and dignified smirk on his face. Zhuo Mo found they were looking down on the battlefield from a very strange angle. It was clear Gong Sun Shidi had not noticed their presence. Zhuo Mo looked around and was very curious. He asked, "Will Yu Heng be able to see Gong Sun Shidi?" Pu Yao ignored him. Wei explained, "They can't see him. Other than the 3 of us, no one can see him." "So it's like that." Zhuo Mo had an expression of comprehension. He then rubbed his hands eagerly. Gong Sun Shidi will definitely make that stupid jade cry and crawl away. "Pu, you're vicious." "The other is not that weak." Pu shook his head, his expression serious. "Yu Heng is a gold battle general. His strength cannot be underestimated." Gold battle general? Zhou Mo stilled and said disbelievingly. No way. That guy looks like he's a con man. He's a gold battle general? Pu Yao snorted and said, You look down at him? He's a true gold battle general. For people like you, he can just reach out with his fingertip and destroy your whole lot. Zhou Mo's face was thick and immune to attacks of this degree. He said cheerfully, Destroy me? He must first defeat Gong Sun Shidi. Right, what is Gong Sun Shidi's skill level now? He probably won't have any problems defeating this old guy, right? Hard to say. The smile on Pu Yao's face disappeared. His expression was stern. I've never fought against Yu Heng before, and do not know what his skills are like. In any case, I believe in Gong Sun Shidi. Zhou Mo had a confident expression. Pu Yao was slightly astonished. You are this confident in him? Shidi is a genius. Zhou Mo said without hesitation. The usual Gong Sun Cha was shy and bashful. Even when speaking, his tone and presence were soft. But when he fought, he seemed to become a whole other person. It might have been due to the influence of Pu Yao, or that his innate personality possessed this kind of insanity, but the Gong Sun Cha during battle was daring and heated, vicious and merciless, striking without hesitation. But there were few that knew under this layer of insanity was a glacier-like iciness. With one sweep, he detected the difference of the environment compared to usual. The complex environment, flora he had never seen before, and strange energy flows that seemed real. Such an enormous chessboard. Gong Sun Cha stood on the top of a mountain peak and looked down at the vast and borderless stretches of land. The wind blew across his handsome face. The mountain wind was very strong and the hairs in front of his forehead swung in the wind and danced in his vision. They quickly became ruffled and tangled. He did not seem to detect it. There was a trace of a smile on the corner of his mouth. His gaze looked into the distance. In the eyes that swept around occasionally, a dot of fire grew, igniting when it met the wind and began to burn. The scale of this chessboard far surpassed any he had fought on before. He closed his eyes and spread his arms. In the darkness, Yu Heng opened his eyes which flashed. A moment later, he showed a satisfied expression. This period of quiet meditation these past few days had not been wasted. He could feel that his mental state had been attuned to its peak. The franticness and the fury of the past days had all disappeared. At this moment, he was like a wolf in the darkness, filled with desire to battle, but also possessing an icy and clear mind. Xiao Moji's challenge had forced him into a situation of life and death. He only had one choice: to fight. He had never before been made to look like such a fool and forced into a reactive position. The initial fury had come mostly from this. Xiao Moji's move truly surpassed his expectation. But Yu Heng had experienced countless schemes and plans during his rise to be able to become the commander of a corps. There were many situations that had been more dangerous than this. Experienced, he quickly calmed down and found the possibility of survival that remained. This war chess match he didn't just have to win, but had to win beautifully. Only by doing so could he preserve his glory in the public's eyes. Having realized this, he threw away all hesitation and started to prepare his mental state. From this, it was possible to see his experience and decisiveness. His reputation was not insubstantial. It was crucial for a battle general to have the ability to adjust their mentality and required to become a mature battle general. Yu Heng unhesitatingly walked into the wasteland beast chessboard. Yu Heng has come, Ji Heng said. His gaze did not move away for a moment. Ji Liu did not make a sound. Her gaze was tightly locked on the Yao channel's broadcast in front of her. This battle had caused a ruckus in every Yao Jie. All the Yao channels, regardless of their size, were only broadcasting this battle today. It was the same in every Yao Jie, every city, tens of thousands of Yao in the air watching the broadcast. No one would miss this battle. Compared to Xiao Moji's previous battles, today's battle was on a completely different level. His opponent was a gold battle general, and the overscaled, high-difficulty war chess caused this battle to become hugely popular. The result of this battle would directly affect both the future of Heavy Earth Corps and the gold battle general Yu Heng. In the history of Yao, there had never been an event where the fate of a corps was entirely determined by the power of a single person. Other than attracting the public's attention, this event also attracted the gaze of the upper levels. It was not just the military high command, even the Council of Elders had noticed it. Compared to this fight, the conflict against the Genius Alliance was like playing house. Yu Heng had been the commander of Heavy Earth Corps for 10 whole years, and had a great reputation. His reputation as a gold battle general was even longer than that. It had to be said that in all of the Yao Jie, there were 170,000 silver battle generals, but the number of gold battle generals did not surpass 800. Receiving the title of a gold battle general meant that they had squeezed into the ranks of the top battle generals. Ji Liu stared at the war chess field on the Yao Channel. Even though the battle had not started, the entire landscape was empty. Xiao Mogu and Yu Heng had both entered the field and everyone became alert. The spectators could not see the two, but the entire chess field had lit up. This meant that both participants had arrived. The same thought flashed through every Yao's mind. It was starting. This battle also attracted the attention of many battle generals. Among battle generals, gold battle generals were undoubtedly experts. A gold battle general that received the position of corps commander was also an expert among experts. There were few chances to watch top experts directly fighting. "Darren, who do you favor?" a young battle general asked respectfully. Everyone surrounded a female like the stars surrounded the moon. A full head of golden long hair cascaded off her shoulders like a waterfall, pure snowy white skin, and a face without an imperfection. She was extraordinarily beautiful, especially that pair of light blue eyes that were as vast as the sea and able to see through everything. No Yao in the surroundings dared to look straight at them. The Yao around her were also handsome or beautiful. She silently stood among them without a word, but no one could cover her light. She was Ming Yu Yi, the bright moon in the night, the present leader of the Genius Alliance. Ming Yu Yi smiled slightly and her lips parted. "Who do you favor?" The voice was airy, and the Yao that were close by had varying degrees of intoxicated expressions on their faces. A thread of adoration imperceptibly flashed across the young battle general's face. He quickly gathered his thoughts and said cautiously, "We do not know Xiao Emoji's skill level. However, Corps Commander Yu Heng's style is experienced, and he is a hard bone to bite." At this time, a beautiful female Yao in the surroundings said prettily, "Even the hardest bone is nothing in front of a Nan." He Mei was one of Ming Yu Ye's closest confidants. She wasn't just beautiful and alluring, her conduct was extremely fiery and she was a rose with thorns. Sang Nan hurriedly said humbly, "Sister, he is joking. Compared to Commander Yu Heng, I'm very lacking." "Who does a Nan think will win?" He Mei couldn't help but ask curiously. The Yao around were also curious about this question. Many of them looked at Sang Nan. The Genius Alliance was full of geniuses. Other than the geniuses that had limitless futures in cultivation and Yao arts, there were also many who were battle generals. The Genius Alliance had 16 gold battle generals, and Sang Nan was one of them. He was also the first seat battle general of the Genius Alliance. His strength had already attracted the attention of the Council of Elders, but such a skilled genius faithfully followed Ming Yu Yi. If he did not follow Ming Yu Yi, then it was very possible that he would have become the youngest corps commander of all of the Yao world. After thinking, Sang Nan said, "Both sides have a chance, especially since there are too many unknown factors. But I feel Yu Heng has a slight advantage. Yu Heng 6, Xiao Mogu 4. So A Nen favors Yu Heng." He Mei realized. Ming Yu Yi was thoughtful. That pair of light blue eyes were as deep as the sea. Sang Nan still wanted to ask. At this time, the two sides started to pick their troops. In war chess, this step was crucial. The strategies that each person was skilled in were different, so their pick of troops would be completely different. The scale of war chess this time was very large, and there was a complete set of soldier types to pick from. Experienced battle generals were able to judge the style and tactics of others from the composition of the troops. He suddenly exclaimed lightly, "A Nan, what is it?" He Mei asked curiously. Sang Nan stared tightly at the Yao channel with a strange expression. As expected, this Xiao Mo is an extremely arrogant person. Why do you say so? He did not understand. Sang Nan had a serious expression and his gaze did not leave the Yao channel. He explained, what he picked is all offensive troops. No support troops. No defensive troops. There was something that Sang Nan did not say. Usually only beginners would choose such a combination. 1. Gigantic oopsie on Fong Xiang's part. Is the name used here, but this is also the same person that has been mentioned before as. He probably forgot the order. I'm going with Ming Yu Yi as this is the name used more frequently in the story and the one that was used first. Night Bright Moon versus Bright Moon Night. Chapter 409. The flame-boring Yao. The soldier type that Gong Sun Cha had chosen caused all Yao that had some knowledge of battle generals to be greatly astonished. Many battle generals shook their heads and said that Xiao Mogu was definitely not a professional. It had to be known that, no matter if it was in true combat or in war chess, the survival rate of an army of a single kind of soldier was very low. They could not deal with the complex and ever-changing battlefield. Compared to Gong Sun Cha, Yu Heng's choices caused the spectators' eyes to light up. 5/10 attacking soldier types, 2/10 defensive soldier types, 3/10 support soldier types. There were all kinds of Yao arts which caused there to be a wide variety of support soldier types. Many battle generals started to speculate Yu Heng's possible tactics based on the soldier type composition he had chosen. A few moments later, many battle generals shook their head on the inside and showed admiring expressions. Yu Heng's troop composition was not just very rational, but could form many kinds of tactics. The more they thought, the more there was to admire. The display of the two sides showed such a great difference in strength, causing many spectators that had anticipated a great battle to be greatly disappointed. Gong Sun Cha was almost dazzled by the variety of soldier types. It was the first time he had seen a great majority of soldier types in the list. The war chess that Pu Yao was familiar with was the war chess of 3,000 years ago. After 3,000 years of development, war chess had completely changed. Patiently flipping through the soldier type list, Gong Sun Cha couldn't help but frown. It was impossible to express the power of an unfamiliar soldier type. No battle general was willing to direct a troop that they were unfamiliar with, no matter how powerful they might be. However, he quickly threw away his stray thoughts. He did not think it was unfair. From when he had first touched the profession of a battle general in Little Mountain Jie, he had never had the luxury to make a troop according to his desired tactics. It was the opposite. He could only choose appropriate tactics based on the conditions of reality, such as a vermilion bird camp that was almost completely sword shio. In true battle, there were many places that would not be as desired. If battle generals could only fight when they were satisfied with the conditions, that was a joke. In his view, battle generals were the ones that would think of obtaining victory under any conditions. Other than victory, everything else was the enemy. His tangled hair brushed past Gong Sun Cha's calm yet crazy face. He narrowed his eyes and flipped through the soldier type list without any pause. Suddenly, a familiar soldier type entered his vision. Fire-boring Yao. When Pu Yao saw the soldier type listing that was also out of his expectations, his expression changed slightly. He had missed a crucial factor. He was an exceptional battle general. No, exceptional was not enough to describe him. Pu Yao's career as a battle general was dazzling. Other than the final battle in which all of his troops died, he was a top-notch battle general. He had only had one loss in his entire life. He had a great understanding of tactics. He knew very well that there was no all-purpose tactic in this world. Even the strongest tactic would become familiar after being studied for 3,000 years, and a way to defeat it would be found. The development of battle tactics would continuously advance. Old battle tactics would always be replaced with even better battle tactics. Pu Yao's expression was abnormally bad. The variety of soldier types in front of him was like a disdainful slap in the face. When he saw Gong Sun Cha expectedly choose the flame-boring Yao, his expression became grave. The battle had not begun, and Gong Suncha had landed in a definite disadvantage. Flame-boring Yao, Tistitske. Many people were shaking their heads. There were those that were laughing, and those that were scornful. Flame-boring Yao was a very common soldier type. However, it was a type popular 3,000 years ago. Of all the Yao arts, fire Yao arts had always been a type of Yao art that had relatively greater power. Flame-boring Yao was a very obscure species among fire Yao. They were born from the lava of earth fire. They seemed to be born for fire Yao arts. Any fire Yao art would have unexpected power on their hands. Due to this, the attacking power of flame-boring Yao in war chess was very high. However, flame-boring Yao had weaknesses in other areas. Their intelligence was mostly low and could only follow orders. Compared to their powerful offensive strength, their defenses could be described as fragile. This was directly connected with the fact that fire Yao arts were not suited for defense. This was also reflected in the settings of war chess. Due to this, they were greatly loved by novices and it was not hard to understand. Beginners always preferred those soldier types that were easy to control and had great offensive power. For them, the exhilaration of charging was more pleasurable than winning. But for expecs, any weakness could be fatal, much less a weakness that everyone knew. Flame-boring Yao must be used in combination with other soldier types to protect the weak flame-boring Yao. Choosing an army completely composed of flame-boring Yao, wasn't that tantamount to suicide? If Yu Heng knew this, he probably would laugh into the sky, but right now, he did not know the state of the opponent. He was extremely cautious as he did not want to lose his reputation. The board in front of him was much larger in scale than he had imaged, but this did not cause any problems to him. He was practiced as he skillfully set up his formations. With his many years of military service, his understanding of battle was even deeper than normal golden battle generals. This kind of profound understanding would show up in his adjustment. He almost did not need to think, and a string of orders were sent out in a stream. Sending out scouts, organizing the troops. Compared to Xiao Moji's terrible display, Yu Heng's display was pleasing to the eye and worthy of respect. When the scouts came back with the information that they had gathered, Yu Heng's troops had finished their organization. Looking down from a great height, his troops were like a crab. The thick middle group was the body of the crab. The nimbly moving two flanks were like two sharp claws. Completely composed of flame-boring Yao, he almost thought a problem had occurred with the scout. But when successive scouts came back with the same information, Yu Heng quickly calmed down. His first thought was that the other had soldier types skilled in illusory Yao arts. There were 28 types that could cast illusory Yao arts. He flipped through them mentally. He was considering which soldier type could be used together with flame-boring Yao. He quickly concluded 6 soldier types that were able to use illusory Yao arts and could work together with flame-boring Yao. Yu Heng quickly furrowed his brow. In opposition to everyone who did not believe that Xiao Emoge had abilities as a battle general, Yu Heng was almost certain that Xiao Emoge had extremely outstanding talent as a battle general. Before accepting the challenge, he had studied Xiao Emoji's history. He had found that, although Xiao Emoge was arrogant and rash, he would do as he said. He could always fulfill the seemingly absurd boasts he made. Due to this, while everyone was doubting Xiao Emoji's skill, he was considering what Xiao Emoge intended strategically to do such a thing. So he frowned, because he did not understand. Usually, using illusory Yao arts were with the intention to feign battle tactics. But to disguise all of the troops as flame-boring Yao was not clever. Because any battle general with some experience could tell this was a disguise. So from this point, the intention to disguise had lost effect. Was Xiao Emoji's skill just so? Yu Heng did not believe it. Deceptive battle tactics were based on both truth and lies, half-truth and half-lie. Successful deceptive tactics were used with the intention of misguiding the enemy. From this angle, according to normal reasoning, the most plausible was that Xiao Emoji's flame-boring Yao were truly flame-boring Yao. All of them were truly flame-boring Yao? Yu Heng shook his head. Of all the guesses, this was the most unlikely. Any battle general familiar with war chess would not be unfamiliar with flame-boring Yao. Of the thousands of tactics that Yu Heng knew, There was none where the starting troops were all flame-boring Yao. This was decided by the flame-boring Yao's unique weakness. Xiao Emogu was a beginner? He would be stupid to believe it. But what were Xiao Emoji's intentions? Yu Heng suddenly found that while the two had not even come into contact, Xiao Emogu had successfully made him unable to judge his actions. As strong as expected, normal battle generals might not be able to detect Yu Heng's hesitation, but strong battle generals such as Sang Nan instantly caught it. Yu Heng's hesitating, Sang Nan said lightly. He then smiled lightly. But if it was anyone else who encountered this, they probably would be jumping in fright too. Is this the stronger you are, the less brave you become? He may looked over. Yes. Sang Nan grimaced. No way around it. Xiao Emoji's move is really too unexpected. At the same time, many battle generals gave knowing smiles, especially those that already were certain that Xiao Emogu was a beginner. In their eyes, this scene was especially comedic. More and more people started to feel that Xiao Emogu was a beginner. Because up until now, Xiao Emogu still hadn't finished organizing his troops. Yu Heng, on the other hand, had found an extremely good piece of land to set up his main base. He had also started to plant all kinds of Yao trees. As time increased, Yu Heng's advantage would become even more evident. Some people wanted to laugh at Yu Heng's caution, but everyone could understand. The importance of this battle to Yu Heng could not be doubted, and in such a crucial battle, maintaining wariness was the sign of maturity. Before discovering the other's intentions, maintaining one's development was an intelligent decision. Experienced and cautious, not giving the other even one weakness to attack, as expected of the commander of an entire corps. On the other hand, Xiao Mogu was still working to organize his troops. The mess of flame-boring Yao were in groups of 3 to 5, and increasingly showed Xiao Emoji's helplessness and clumsiness. The sound of discussion increased and scornful laughs increased. But in this loud and busy background, Sang Nan and the other golden battle generals lowered their voices. The disdain, underestimation, laughter in their eyes were like snow under sunlight that quickly disappeared. Their eyes slowly grew bright and sharp. They all looked at that troop that was being organized with difficulty. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.